The story begins with a guy being called a loser. The young man sat and thought, how could he be so lucky that he was called to another world and was not given any abilities? It wasn't fair. The men who stood nearby said that even though they were called from another world, they couldn't do anything. With the skills of defense and exploration, the guy will not become even the weakest hero. They finally arrived at the village, and now they could chase away a guy with no abilities. To this, the guy said that they could have kept quiet, because he would come out on his own. From that day on, Masatsugu Naomi owned this shelter called Luna. When the guy opened the door, it fell off and fell down. Masatsugu told the men that something had fallen off, but they said goodbye to the future manager and left. Naomi thought that he had no choice, and if he wanted to survive in this world, he would have to adapt. The conditions at the shelter were simply terrible. Masatsugu walked further and further away and wondered if it was even possible to fix everything in this place. He was wondering if someone lived in this place when he suddenly heard strange noises. He could hear someone crying. At this time, the goblin was holding the little girl by the hair and saying that she was good and they would make a base right in this place. The girl helplessly begged the goblin to let her go. Masatsugu came into the room and asked if he was interrupting them. The goblin noted that there were still people in this place. He grinned and said that the guy was too late, because this house and the girl belonged to him. He ordered Masatsugu to get out of there. The guy seriously said that it wouldn't happen this time because he had nowhere to go. The goblin laughed and asked if the guy was really stupid. He pulled out his claws and said it was stupid to resist. The next moment, he charged straight at Masatsugu. The guy instinctively covered his head with his hands when suddenly a barrier appeared right in front of him, which blocked the goblin's attack. The monster was taken aback, completely unaware of what had happened. Masatsugu was equally surprised. The goblin got angry and told the guy not to be impudent. He tried to attack the guy again, but Masatsugu had already realized that he had certain abilities. He dodged the monster's attacks quickly and deftly. The girl who was lying on the floor earlier noticed something amazing. Masatsugu was surprised and did not understand what had happened at all. When he came to his senses, the goblin was already lying on the floor, unconscious. He looked at his hands and thought that he only knew the skills of defense and intelligence. Earlier, he was told that he was not capable of fighting. He wondered if that was why he was in such a place and without money. Suddenly, the girl turned to Masatsugu and apologized. Sitting on the cold floor, she thanked Masatsugu for his help. She thanked him again for helping a beastman with a terrible face like hers. Masatsugu looked at the girl and said that he only beat that monster himself, because the goblin himself got in the way of the guy, and she shouldn't thank him for that. After these words, the girl was very surprised, which caused tears to flow from her eyes. She smiled a little and said she was very happy anyway. Her eyes darted around, and she said she was glad even though she was going to die very soon. Almost immediately after these words, the girl began to fall back, completely losing all her strength. Masatsugu was taken aback and immediately rushed to the girl. He caught her and told her to hold on as hard as she could. Suddenly, the girl sparkled violently. Masatsugu didn't understand what was going on this time. At that very moment, all the wounds of the girl that were on her face and body began to evaporate. She fell back into Masatsugu's arms, who was perplexed by what was happening. He tried to call the girl, who was lying with her eyes closed. With some heaviness, she opened her eyes slightly, after which she tried to carefully get to her feet. She touched most of the places that hurt her and realized that she seemed to be fine. Masatsugu was once again shocked by a new, unknown feeling that he had. He knew that he obviously shouldn't be able to heal. After realizing what had happened, the girl began to cry convulsively and thank Masatsugu for what he had done. The girl said that she was already afraid that she was dead. Masatsugu stood up and told her not to cry, because he had previously asked her not to thank him for saving her. This little girl has become a guy's annoyance. He patted her on the head and told her to be more careful. The girl was very surprised and raised her head. Masatsugu apologized to her and said that he had petted her. Suddenly, the girl exclaimed that she didn't mind at all, because beastmen only allow this to their parents and masters. Masatsugu said that it was as he thought and he better stop. Noticing this, she was visibly upset. Suddenly, she grabbed Masatsugu's hand and politely asked him to become her master. She looked at the guy sincerely and asked him for permission to have her around. Masatsugu took hold of her head and told her to take her time. He didn't understand why things had suddenly turned out this way. The girl said that she would like to thank Masatsugu for his help. Beastmen have a custom of following their master everywhere and always. The girl blushed and slowly began to take off her dress. She asked Masatsugu for permission to prove it. The girl looked confusedly at Masatsugu, who was sitting silently right in front of her. The girl asked the guy to listen to her. She looked tearfully at Masatsugu and said that it might be that she would seem like a burden to him, but she really wanted the guy to let her at least prove that she could be useful. Masatsugu shouted loudly for her to stop and finally get dressed already. The girl was very taken aback. At this time, the guy turned away and didn't even look at her. She began to get upset, when suddenly Masatsugu said that there was absolutely no chance here, because children simply could not do this. As he spoke, he looked at her extremely sternly. He told her to do it in the future with a loved one when she grows up. The girl was very happy and asked if this meant that when she grew up, she would become the master's wife. These words surprised Masatsugu no less than the past, and he exclaimed that he did not mean that at all, and by that time, she would already find someone else. While Masatsugu was talking about this, the girl wasn't even listening to him and was happily spinning around the room saying that she would marry the owner. Masatsugu silently looked at the girl in disbelief and wondered what he had said wrong. Suddenly, with a big smile on her face, she turned and addressed the owner, saying that her name was Lucy. The girl happily said that she was already waiting for instructions from Masatsugu. The guy sighed and agreed, after which he told me that he had come to this place in order to open a shelter. He said that since she wanted to be with him so much, she would live in a shelter, and he would only help her with food. Lucy immediately agreed and happily thanked Masatsugu again. The girl ran around the room and hummed a song while Masatsugu stood in disbelief and wondered if he would really run the orphanage. He smiled bitterly. He had a mother who left for another man, as well as an abusive father, so from an early age he was on his own. He thought that the king must be deliberately choosing people like him. With one hand, he gently dusted off the table, thinking that children can grow up without parental love, and he himself is a perfect example of this. He only hoped that he would not starve to death in this place. Masatsugu took out a small dusty apron from one of the cupboards. He dusted off the item of clothing, then put it on himself. Completely inspired, he rolled up his sleeves, thinking that in order to survive, he needed to work hard. For the rest of the day, the shelter was actively working. Masatsugu carefully hammered nails into the walls, closing the large holes. After he blocked one of them, he looked at it from different angles and said that everything seemed to be fine. He was hammering nails when suddenly he thought deeply about what kind of skill it was. He noticed that he hadn't shown up since that very time. Masatsugu turned around and was a little surprised when he noticed that there was nothing behind him, because just recently there was a pile of garbage. At that time, Lucy was running next to him, mopping the floor. The girl greeted Masatsugu, after which she said that she had already thrown out this garbage. Along the way, she didn't even stop. Masatsugu sighed and said he understood her. He took a bucket with a broom and decided that he would go to the second floor. When he went up the stairs, there was a rather unexpected picture waiting for him. The entire second floor was gleaming with cleanliness. Masatsugu did not understand at all how such a thing was possible. Suddenly, Lucy called Masatsugu. As soon as she went up to the second floor, she smiled and said that she had already finished cleaning in this place too. Masatsugu was genuinely amazed by her work. The guy took a bucket with him and thought he needed to get some water. Suddenly, Lucy came up to him and said that she had already brought the water too. Lucy's water was in the water tank. Masatsugu was taken aback, but again said that he understood the girl and decided to go on other business. He started to get ready to go outside, thinking that he could at least sort out the weeds at the entrance to the shelter. Once again, Lucy came up to him and said that she had already pulled out all the weeds. Masatsugu awkwardly said that he understood. By this time, evening was already approaching outside. Masatsugu was sewing things up and wondering if it could be that Lucy was an angel. He noted that the girl is much more capable than he thought. He thought about how he shouldn't overload Lucy with things. He turned to the girl who was mopping the floors next to him. The guy said that the best job for children was always playing, and if she was tired, then she should go and play somewhere. Lucy smiled and said that she wasn't tired at all, because she was happy when she helped Masatsugu. In response, Masatsugu said that if she overworked, she would only make him worry, and she should rest properly. The girl happily said that she was useful to the owner. She was definitely pleased with that. Masatsugu sighed. thinking that he seemed to have been misunderstood. Masatsugu sighed and said that in that case he would give Lucy even more work. The girl just thanked the guy for it. Masatsugu suddenly said that wouldn't do. The guy was never thanked for his work, but he heard that in normal families there are rules, according to which no one should work for nothing. He took a deep breath again, thinking about how to say it, while Lucy just looked at him in silence and smiled. Masatsugu quickly waved his hand, then pointed his finger at Lucy. He exclaimed that she would receive a reward because the one who works deserves it. He stated that this would be the rule from now on. Lucy, perplexed, said she didn't need any reward. Because of this, Masatsugu was extremely surprised. The girl said she only wanted to serve him. Masatsugu paled and asked what it meant, thinking along the way that he might have made a mistake somewhere. Suddenly, Lucy became shy and said that there was something she would like after all. She laughed awkwardly and said that if it didn't bother Masatsugu, she would like him to pat her on the head again, just like that time. Masatsugu asked incredulously if Lucy was sure that would be enough. The girl happily shook her head and said that it would be even more than enough. As soon as Masatsugu put his hand on her head, Lucy immediately went limp and said how wonderful it was. Masatsugu said with some doubt that Lucy was too defenseless in this state. He told her not to get into any trouble. The girl said that Masatsugu shouldn't worry. She yawned and said that she trusted only him and no one but him. After that, Lucy laid her head on Masatsugu's feet, quickly falling asleep. Masatsugu, displeased, told her not to fall asleep on him. But the girl did not even plan to get up. She smiled and told the owner that she loved him. Masatsugu took a deep breath, not knowing what to do. He thought it was problematic. Thus, he became the owner of the shelter. He thought that the days at the orphanage promised to be fun. At this time, a lot of people gathered in a large building. The king sat on the throne while the girl next to him guarded him. They said that those who have not yet tested their skills should come forward to them. People were wondering who would be next. Others were asking if they were done. Suddenly, someone in the audience asked who Naomi was. They noticed Masatsugu, who was standing silently behind them, and asked if it was him. They told him to be faster. They were unhappy that he was such an uncooperative guy. Masatsugu silently went out to the ball, with which he could test his skills. He couldn't get rid of various thoughts about what was wrong with him, and he couldn't believe these stories. He wondered if they would send them back to their world after they defeated the Demon King, and they were the ones who dragged the guys into this world in the first place. He slowly touched the ball. Suddenly, the book held by the girl checking the results shone brightly. The girl was taken aback, saying that this simply could not be. One of the observers asked what happened. The girl said it was the magic of summoning heroes from another world. She explained that when someone is summoned to their world using this magic, they are given a unique skill. However, the strange thing was that this young man only had protection and the initial form of the identification skill. These were all the skills the guy had. Listening to this, Masatsugu looked at them in disbelief. The king got up and asked how it happened. He didn't know how someone so incompetent could be drafted. The girl said it looked like protection had the potential to be a support skill. The king shouted at the girl not to talk nonsense. He honestly didn't understand how the support skill could be of any use at all. The girl awkwardly agreed with the ruler's words and apologized. At this time, Masatsugu noticed how many people who were also nearby at this time began to mock him. They said it was a laugh, that's all. They said that Naomi Masatsugu was a complete mistake on his own. The guy sighed and thought that it was only natural that they looked down on him. Apart from him alone, everyone would later become archmages or paladins. That's because they have high-class skills. Thinking about this, Masatsugu took a deep breath. The king said that initially he thought that Naomi could be assigned to the army or the government, but these plans did not come true. Masatsugu thought to himself that the only plans that would never come true were solely his own. Naomi thought that no one had given him permission to shirk his part-time job. The king asked if the guy's name was Naomi Masatsugu. He said that there was no job in his castle that he could entrust to such an ordinary guy like him. He said that if he wasn't mistaken, they had a shelter on the edge of town. He stated that he trusted his Naomi, and if he could shelter and keep at least 10 orphans there, he would think about returning the guy to his home world. Naomi nodded off involuntarily. When he woke up, he looked around and noticed that he seemed to have fallen asleep for a while. Lucy was still sleeping on the guy's legs. Suddenly, the guy remembered that the king had given him some money before sending him to the orphanage. Naomi started looking for the money he needed in his pockets. After spending some time searching, he pulled out a small bag of money and thought about how he uses it to buy essential items. While he was thinking, little Lucy woke up. She wished good morning to the owner, although she barely opened her eyes. Naomi noticed that the girl had already woken up, after which he told her that he was going to go to the city to get food. Naomi told the girl to behave herself, and also to look after the house until he returned in the evening. The girl rubbed her eyes, after which she asked with interest if Naomi was really going to go shopping. Lucy jumped up abruptly and asked the guy to take her with him. Naomi was startled. After a while, the guy came to a crowded market. Naomi caught himself thinking that he was just now beginning to realize that he really was in another world. He said that the first thing to do was to get some food. At that time, Lucy was running from side to side, looking at the fact that they were selling weapons and a lot of traditional clothes everywhere. Lucy smiled broadly and called for the owner to follow her. Naomi asked the girl to calm down a little. Suddenly, the guy noticed that the people who were sitting next to him were looking at the girl with an ambiguous smile. The guy sighed, thought that he shouldn't have brought her here. Lucy thought she'd look around first and not draw attention to him. She held out her hand to Naomi and, with a slight blush on her cheeks, waited for his answer. The guy immediately said he wasn't going to pretend they were on a date. The girl said that everything was wrong and there were a lot of people around, so she might get lost. Naomi immediately looked at the people around him, but did not notice any glances. He took a deep breath and noticed that there really were a lot of people on the street. He took her hand with a displeased face. Lucy smiled and said it was just a handshake. Noticing this, the people who were looking at Lucy sighed loudly, noticing that she was with a man. After a while, the guys were paying for their purchases, when suddenly Naomi felt something strange and turned around. He said out loud that he felt that someone was looking at him just now. His gaze fell on a narrow alley that was empty. He stared at it intently until Lucy called him. He turned to the girl, who was smiling broadly and showing him the fruits she had managed to get for free. With a little suspicion, he took a deep breath. He wondered if he had imagined it. Lucy asked what happened. Naomi replied that everything was fine, and then told them to go back. The girl was in favor of this idea. On the way back, Lucy noticed a large crowd of people and asked if something had happened. They got a little closer and found out that there was a clash of adventurers. The two adventurers were fighting with each other while the crowd around was supporting the fight. Naomi sighed and said that it was very stupid, after which he called Lucy to follow him. They were going to leave together. Naomi thought that he definitely didn't want to be involved in something. Suddenly, someone addressed them. An adult man looked at Lucy and said she was cute. He asked if the girl wanted to go out for a snack with him. Naomi got angry when he thought that this man wanted to order her. He thought that he really shouldn't have brought her with him. Naomi took a deep breath, thinking that everything was bad. Suddenly, Lucy sternly said that even men try to please him, and her master is just great. The man exclaimed that this answer was incorrect. Naomi looked at the girl and also said that she was mistaken. Lucy was surprised, after which the guy explained that the man was talking to Lucy. The girl was very confused when she realized that this question was for her. The man said they didn't need this guy, and then asked what Lucy thought. The girl began to worry. She took hold of Naomi's shoulder and showed that she had chosen the host. The guy wondered if she really thought he would stand up for her. The man said that the girl should learn to defend herself on her own. He exclaimed that it really hurt his feelings. After that, the man threateningly asked Naomi if he was the girl's owner. He said that this meant that he was responsible. He asked her why she didn't work as a delivery girl in a pub nearby. Naomi wondered what he had to do with it. The guy didn't say anything, which made the man even angrier. He grabbed him and asked why he was silent. Suddenly, Naomi switched to automatic defense mode. He grabbed the man's hand and put him on the ground. Lucy was amazed. The guy did not understand what happened because his body worked on its own. The man started shouting at Naomi to let him go. The guy thought he saw the man in slow motion when he tried to grab him. He wondered if this was the work of his skill. The man screamed at Naomi to let him go. He tried to pull away. The guy sternly said that the man would apologize first, and then he would let him go. He glared at Naomi. After that, the guy lowered the man's head and said that he should bow, since he was guilty. He asked if his parents hadn't taught him that. The man started crying. Naomi lowered his head again and said it was rude. He told him to forget about the apologies and just stay away from them. He said that guys like this man are a bad example in raising orphans. If he wanted Naomi to let him go, then he should nod in agreement. The man nodded slowly, and Naomi released him and said it was just this once. He dusted off his hands and told Lucy that they were leaving. It was getting noisy, so they decided to hurry up. The man was furious. He asked if Naomi really thought he would leave it like that. When the guys left, they noticed that the two adventurers were still fighting. After one careless move, their swords bounced into the air. One of the swords flew straight at the guys. While the sword was about to hit Lucy in the head, the man tried to stab Naomi from behind. Right before he struck, Naomi had already lunged forward and deflected the sword that was flying at the girl. Everyone was shocked. The man flew back when Naomi thought what had happened. He noticed that the skill had triggered automatically, but he still didn't know what was going on. People in the crowd started whispering about whether others had seen it. They were amazed that Naomi had knocked the orichalcum blade away with his hand. When everyone paid attention to Naomi, the guy thought that it couldn't be worse. He caught Lucy's hand and told her they were leaving. At the last moment, he turned back, right into that narrow alley. He still had the feeling that he was being watched. As they ran back, Lucy told the owner that it was wonderful. Naomi turned around and asked what she was saying. He said that he not only got into a fight, but also cruelly put that man down. Lucy didn't understand what was wrong, because the owner was protecting her. Lucy said that the owner is her fairy prince. Naomi claimed that he wasn't defending her at all, but only himself. The girl laughed and said that he had protected her today and they had also gone shopping. The girl said it was just like on a date, and she was happy. Naomi thought she wasn't listening to him. He turned around and exclaimed that it wasn't a date. They go on dates with those they love, and she needs to be patient until she finds someone who will be dear to her. Suddenly, he noticed how Lucy was squeezing his hand with a gentle smile. He wondered if she understood him. He sighed and said they should hurry up and cook dinner. Upon returning home, Naomi laid out all his things and thought that now it was possible to live here, at least for now. Suddenly, he felt eyes on him again and turned towards the forest. Now he knew for sure that someone was watching him. He didn't know what the man was after, but it looked like he was just watching for now. After that, he went home and closed the door behind him. He put a lot of different cups and plates on the table and decided that he needed to finish cooking before the evening. Suddenly, Lucy came up to him and, looking at the table, asked in surprise what it was all for. He asked if she was asking about baking soda and butter. The guy said that while walking through the market, he did not find soap anywhere. It's a problem, but he'll have to do it himself. Lucy was perplexed when she heard about the soap. She asked what it was. Naomi was very surprised. He asked if there really were no cleaning products in this world. Lucy asked if it could be that these were any special things. The guy thought that he, of course, knew that they were savages, but did not know that everything was so bad. He told Lucy to consider soap a magical artifact that kills dirt. She can wash with them, do the laundry, and clean up. Lucy was surprised and happily said that the owner knows everything in the world. Naomi said she shouldn't be so admired. He wanted to say what he needed, but Lucy interrupted him and asked if she could help. She asked him very persistently for permission, because she really wanted to help. She asked him very persistently for permission because she really wanted to help. She said that if the oil would make it clean, she was sure that the owner would like it. Naomi thought it would be good if the girl could learn how to make soap herself. He told her not to get under his arms, but allowed her to help. The girl agreed. After Naomi lit the fire, he began to explain that first you need to bring the water to a boil. When it boils, they add baking soda. Then you need to wait for the bubbles to become smaller. Lucy noticed that they were actually getting smaller. After that, they slowly stirred in the oil. Lucy asked how long he needed to be disturbed, also asking if she could disturb him. The guy suggested that it might take 30 minutes. The girl took a spoon and started stirring. She said she didn't even know that soap was made like this. She felt like she was just cooking. Naomi started pushing her away and saying that she was in the way. He wondered if she was hot. The girl moved away. Suddenly, the girl noticed that the liquid was becoming viscous. Naomi assumed that would be enough. He said that now they needed to pour the finished mixture into the molds and let it cool. When the water had evaporated, they had to wait until the soap had set. After the guys poured the soap into the molds, Lucy sat next to the table and watched the process intently. Naomi told the girl that she would have to wait long enough. After a while, the mixture solidified and the soap was ready. The guy took the product out of the mold and showed what they had done. Lucy gasped in delight. The guy gave Lucy 1 bar of soap and told her to wash her hands right now. The girl took the product and thought about how to wash her hands. Lucy carefully sniffed the soap, then tried to run it over her dry hands. Right after that, she sniffed her hands, which smelled like soap. The girl asked if she had done everything right. Naomi was terrified that he would have to teach her even such basic things. With a displeased face, he took the soap and told her to look carefully. He explained that soap is usually used together with water. He soaped the soap in his hands and said that he needed to rub it in his hands until foam appeared on them. After an illustrative example, he gave the soap to her and told her to try it. The girl quickly agreed. He didn't know why he had to do this kind of thing at all. Lucy took the wet soap in her hands and was surprised to notice that it was very slippery. She tried to rub it gently in her hands and then asked if she was doing it right. Noticing that foam was appearing, she continued to rub the soap. After a while, all of Lucy's hands were soaked in wet soap foam. The girl blew admiringly on the foam, after which she said that the foam was very light and pleasant. Suddenly, Lucy noticed what had happened, because she had blown up the foam. The girl immediately apologized. She dropped a bar of soap. There was water all over the floor, and Lucy's own dress was completely soaked. The girl said she would immediately clean up everything she had done. Naomi asked what she was doing. He turned away and told her to just get out and change her clothes. Before he left, he told her to come to the kitchen at 3 o'clock after he was done. Lucy awkwardly agreed, looking at Naomi's back as she walked away. She thought that the owner wasn't angry at all, and he was really very kind. However, she was worried about what would happen at 3 o'clock. Lucy came out to the kitchen and said that she had already changed her clothes. She approached Naomi and asked if he was going to continue making soap. The guy said that he still had some baking soda left, and so he decided to make pancakes. The girl asked what the soda had to do with it. Naomi asked what the girl thinks about when she hears about baking soda. She thought about it and said that when she was a servant, she was told that it was something used in cleaning. Naomi said he understood. For himself, he noted that in this world, little is known about the properties of baking soda. He said that if you add baking soda to the dough, it will work like yeast. However, not everyone in his world knew about it either. Lucy asked if it was okay to eat baking soda. The guy sighed and told Lucy to just leave him alone. The girl agreed. Naomi explained that they first separate the yolk from the protein. Then he mixed the butter, yolk, and milk. Now, little by little, he added flour and baking soda. Naomi was surprised to see that it was getting thicker. Naomi said that in another bowl they were whipping the protein, adding a little sugar. The girl asked if she could help. She took a spoon and began to slowly stir the dough. She noticed in surprise and asked if they were really making a cream base for a cake. Naomi said he really looked like that, but he wasn't. Now they were mixing everything together. It is better not to mix thoroughly, but to slightly knock it down. Naomi finished and said that was enough. Lucy said that the owner was very wise, and in her opinion, he was one of those who in the guy's world are called scientists. Naomi said irritably that he had nothing in common with them. Lucy got scared and apologized. The guy asked if she thought he would hurt her in any way. He said he was trying to be caring. He talked about eating normally and having a snack at 3 o'clock. Hearing this, the girl was surprised. After a while, Naomi was already frying pancakes. Lucy asked if he had made them just for himself. The girl said she thought she heard that she could too. When he looked at her, she apologized and said that wasn't what she meant at all. Naomi asked what kind of nonsense she was talking about, because it was natural that Portia was there for her too. Moreover, the guy did not like sweets. He said that in normal homes, a snack at 3 o'clock is considered the rule. Lucy asked why he was doing so much for her, because she was a servant and not an orphan. He had no reason to do that. He helped her a lot and treated her to such a sumptuous meal. The girl exclaimed that the gods would punish her for this. Naomi grabbed her by the ears and told her to keep quiet. Naomi asked how she felt about it. She couldn't resist at all. From the very first meeting, he could barely contain himself. The girl began to cry and called for the owner. Naomi let her go and said that he had no idea how other shelters were. But this was his, so she should be grateful that he was feeding them. He said she should follow his instructions without question. He patted her on the head when she agreed. He thought it was better that way. He let her go and said it was time to get the plates. Naomi put small but fluffy pancakes on the plates. Lucy said it looked delicious, but she said she really couldn't. Naomi said she wouldn't force it. Immediately after that, he poured syrup on the pancakes. The girl was delighted. Naomi said that if she didn't want to eat, they would have to throw it out. Lucy immediately said that this should not be done in any case. Naomi said she needed to eat then. The girl carefully cut off a small piece with a fork. As soon as she tasted the pancakes, she was incredibly delighted. Naomi wondered if she was even breathing. The girl immediately exclaimed to Naomi that these pancakes were great. She had never eaten anything like this before. The guy told her not to exaggerate. The girl said they were amazing. They melted in my mouth, but they were airy and sweet. Naomi also took a small piece, but they were too sweet for her. The girl exclaimed that she had a feeling that Naomi had been a professional chef in the past. She happily said that the guy not only knows about everything in the world, but he also cooks great. Naomi turned away and told her not to talk nonsense. After that, Naomi said that there was still a lot of dough left, so he could make pancakes again for a snack tomorrow. The girl was surprised and asked if she could really eat them tomorrow. She happily said that it looked like a dream. Naomi was skeptical. He thought about real happiness. It was this smile that he wanted to protect. For the first time, someone commented on how he cooks. While Naomi was standing with a blackboard in his hands and was lost in his thoughts, Lucy suddenly came up to him and addressed him. The girl asked worriedly if her master was unwell. Naomi sighed and said that wasn't the case, and he was just checking their budget. If they ever spend too much of the money allocated by the king, they will be on the verge of bankruptcy. Lucy blushed and asked in a scared voice if it was because she had eaten too many pancakes. The guy stopped her and told her to talk nonsense. He was more concerned about how they could earn more money. He had no intention of bowing down and asking for more. The girl sighed and said she understood. She looked at the small plan in Naomi's hands and asked if these were really all ideas of how they could make money. There were a lot of them. The guy replied that he had just recorded various entertainments from his world. Lucy asked if there was anything she could help him with. Naomi looked at her and wondered how anyone could refuse when she was looking at him like that. He looked at her sternly and told her to choose for herself. The girl agreed and happily said that she would definitely be useful to him. Naomi just told her not to get in the way. But she wasn't going to. There were a lot of ideas, and Lucy didn't even know which one to try first. Suddenly, her gaze caught on one of them, and she asked what a comic book was. Naomi calmly explained that it was a book where everything was clear, even if she couldn't read. It tells the drawings. He began to draw something quickly. He turned the piece of paper over and said that it clearly showed that he was going to fight the dragon, and on the next page, he would defeat the dragon. That was the comic book. Lucy was surprised to say how cute the drawings turned out to be from the owner. Naomi said that he was going to throw them out, after which he told the girl to leave her flattery, because these are just sketches. Lucy exclaimed this was not flattery at all, because the drawings turned out to be very original, not to mention that they look very cute. Lucy told the guy that he was very talented in art too. Naomi was surprised, and then said that he wasn't that good at all. Lucy explained that it was true, because when she was a servant in a rich estate, she had seen a lot of things. However, this was the first time that a painting evoked so many emotions in her. Lucy said very confidently that it would sell very well. Naomi looked away and thought that if that was the case, then the future was a little clearer. Suddenly, they heard someone ring the doorbell. Lucy was surprised and asked if it could be that they were guests. The people who came to the guys started asking if anyone was home. Naomi went to the door, where two men were already waiting for them. One of them introduced himself and said his name was Dren. He was the master of the Adventurers Guild. He said that his bodyguard Guzu, an A-rank adventurer, was standing behind him. Naomi asked the men what they needed. Dren stated that he would speak directly, after which he asked if the guy would like to join their guild. Naomi objected, saying that he is the head of the orphanage. Dren said that he had previously heard that Naomi had smashed an auriclecomb blade with her bare hands. Just the other day, when there was a fight on the street, Naomi sighed, thinking that he originally knew that he had attracted a lot of attention back then. Dren said that the guy could easily reach even the S rank among adventurers with his abilities. The man bowed deeply, which surprised Naomi. Dren said his guild needed people like Naomi. Without thinking for a long time, the guy said that he was very busy working at the shelter. Dren raised his head and asked the guy to help them at least once a year. He was even willing to give Naomi a reward for joining the guild. He was ready for anything. Suddenly, the guy felt Lucy tugging at his sleeve. Naomi turned around and asked irritably what she needed, because she saw that he was talking. To his surprise, he saw how scared Lucy was holding on to him with tears in her eyes. He was taken aback, not understanding why she was doing this. He wondered why she was silent, if she wanted to stop him so much. However, understanding quickly dawned on him. He remembered the screams and quarrels from his own childhood. His mother screamed that she didn't care, and she was leaving, and the boy could do whatever he wanted. At that very moment, he realized that she was the same as him. Naomi looked at her and thought that no one was around, but the whole world was against it. He assumed that she hadn't had the right to say what she thought before. He sighed and said that he had no intention of giving up the shelter, and therefore he had to reject Dran's request. Hearing this, hope appeared in Lucy's eyes. However, Guzuzu, who had previously remained silent, was not happy with this answer. The man cursed and asked how Naomi even dares to refuse Mr. Dren. He loudly asked, "Who does Naomi think he is?" He claimed that the guy was just a slug running a shelter. Dren shouted at the man to step back, but he was no longer listening to him. Guzuzu unsheathed his weapon and said that the incident with the wedge was just a rumor, and therefore Naomi should not pretend that he was better than others. At this time, he was already charging his weapon with magic power. He was going to kill Naomi. Guzu swung hard, already trying to attack the guy. He said Naomi was too conceited. In an instant, the guy felt a ripple on his fingertips. Right before Guzush tried to hit the guy, Naomi fended off a strong attack with just his bare hand, after which the sword flew straight into the ground. Guzuz was greatly taken aback, not understanding what had just happened. Standing on the ground, the man began to look around, asking where his sword had gone. Naomi was completely calm. He picked up Guzuzu's weapon from the ground with one hand. He gripped the blade tightly, calling it laughably worthless. Guzuzu looked at it and did not understand how such a thing could be. Naomi squeezed the blade hard, after which cracks appeared on it. With a stern expression on his face, the guy said that this worthless blade was exactly the same as Guzu's own techniques. Immediately after that, the blade shattered into small pieces. Guzuzu gasped in shock. Naomi turned away and said they should both wash their manners. He was about to say goodbye to them when suddenly Dren tried to stop him again. The man fell to his knees and began to apologize for the stupidity of his subordinate Guzuz. Naomi calmly replied that it was just as Dren had said, and it was just stupidity and nothing more. Moreover, he asked if it was proper for a guildmaster to bow to a child. Hearing this, Guzu was going to swear again and hit the guy. But Dren hit the man with all his might and told him to be quiet. He said that he just couldn't help but acknowledge the guy's strength, and in such a situation, he had to apologize. Naomi sighed and said he accepted the man's apology. He thought it would be problematic if someone saw them. He asked Dren to get up quickly. At that moment, the man caught Naomi's hands and said that he was really to blame. He returned to the topic of the guild and said that if Naomi was busy, then he could only join them in his spare time. The guy thought it was getting more stressful than just checking in. He tried to pull his hands out and ask why Dren needed such strength. The man sighed and said he would be honest with the guy. He admitted that the Kingdom of Balk and the neighboring country are preparing for war. A year ago, they suddenly invaded the Elven Forest and burned it to the ground. And not only that, because their fights from birth and the demons are getting tougher and fiercer with each passing day. Naomi realized that Dren was just using the instability of the neighboring kingdom as an argument. He was amused by how much fuss he made about it and thought that since things were like this, he needed to be prepared for the situation to get worse. Naomi said he would think about it, but the shelter came first for him. The man thanked Naomi. He handed the guy a small bag and asked him to accept it as a donation to the orphanage, or as compensation for a misunderstanding with his subordinate. Naomi said there was no need for that. When they were leaving, Dren hit Guzu again and told him to get up, because they were leaving. Naomi asked aloud if he was going to somehow use the guy for selfish purposes. Lucy asked in surprise if there was really a lot of money in this little bag. They opened it, after which Lucy happily exclaimed about how much money they had been given. Naomi laughed and said that in the end it was the most common bribe. Suddenly, A small girl came up to the guys and said that she had seen what Naomi had done. She took off her hood and said that the guy's hands were very useful. She smiled proudly and said that he was probably perfect for her purposes. The girl grinned and noted that Naomi was capable. As it turned out, an elf girl had been watching them from afar in the shadows all this time. Lucy asked in surprise who it was. Naomi assumed that she was the one who had been following him in the city. He asked if that was true. The girl sighed and noted that he, as it turned out, knew about her. She said that her name is Erin, and she is the former queen of the Elven Forest. Naomi calmly said that in order for at least someone to believe her, she needed a better story. He had heard that the Elven Forest had been attacked by the Bolt Kingdom. Erin noted that he knew that too. The girl clenched her fist and said that it was true, and a year ago her country was razed to the ground. She exclaimed that she would avenge her mother and father with her own hands. Naomi coolly told Erin to do whatever she wanted. He said she must be looking for mercenaries, but there was no one suitable here. He said she came to the wrong place. The girl exclaimed that she was never mistaken. She clarified that this place is an orphanage. Since her parents were killed, then this place is just for her. The girl told Masatsugu that he is strong and she knows it. The guy was surprised that she knew his name. It would be much wiser for her to stay with him than to mess with the mercenaries. At that moment, the guy realized that he had really attracted a lot of attention that time in the city. He exclaimed that he was against the idea. As the manager, he decides who can live in the shelter. The girl sighed and said that she knew it would come to this. Naomi said that the conversation was over, but Lucy noticed something strange. Erin began to take off her clothes. She had no choice, and she had to do it. She said she was completely at the mercy of the guy. Erin was a high elf, a princess, and still untouched by anyone. She said that 100 million coins would be easily offered for her at the auction on the market. Naomi quickly approached the girl, then grabbed her and threw her over his shoulder. Erin started screaming and asking what he was doing. She asked him to let her go. When Naomi brought the girl into the house, he threw her on the floor. Erin asked if he was really that rude. She recalled that she had previously said that he could do whatever he wanted with her. However, the next moment, the guy threw something right in her face. He started swearing, because first Lucy did it, and now she did it too. He didn't understand why all the girls in this world were so greedy for such things. Erin stared at the guy in disbelief. Naomi screamed loudly, asking what would happen if someone saw her. He didn't understand if she really thought he could have something with a kid like her. Erin got confused and told him to do it when she grows up. She gave her word that he would not regret it. Naomi told her to shut up. The guy said that even if she is a former queen, he does not intend to sleep with her, and she will not stay in the shelter. He asked if she understood everything. Erin was speechless. Naomi told her to get dressed and leave. He was extremely angry. The girl was very upset. She said that everyone she had previously met had tried to rob her or capture her. It was the first time she had met someone like Naomi. The guy thought that she could be offended by him as much as she wanted, because he didn't care. Suddenly, Lucy turned to him. He turned around and asked what was wrong. The girl hesitated, and then asked Naomi for permission so that Erin could stay with them. The girl was shocked. Naomi asked if Lucy had heard what she was saying. He stated that he did not intend to leave someone in the shelter who was obsessed with revenge. The girl stood her ground. She said Erin had nowhere else to go. Naomi replied that it was not their problem. Lucy exclaimed that she was very sorry for the girl. Naomi told the girl to remember that thoughtless actions would lead to her death. It was stupid to do something she would regret. Lucy said she knew, but she couldn't just leave her. She started crying and said that her parents had been killed too. After that, there was silence in the room. Naomi looked at Erin, who was also watching the situation, in confusion. Naomi took a deep breath and said he understood what Lucy was talking about. Naomi said that in the worst-case scenario, she would become a tool for revenge. He wanted to say something to the girl, but Lucy confidently said she was ready. Naomi asked if Erin had talked about taking revenge on the Bolt Kingdom. She hesitated. The guy said that he was not going to reproach her or dissuade her, but revenge would have to wait 3 years. The girl was surprised. He said that in 3 years, this place would definitely change, and he would no longer be the manager, and even Lucy would grow up by then. He said it was his condition if she wanted to stay. She grinned and said she understood. He noticed that she was walking towards the door and asked where she was going. Aaron said that even if revenge is delayed, she needs to prepare it properly. Naomi told her to do whatever she wanted, but she should get dressed. He said lunch was at 1 o'clock and she needed to be here. Snack at 3 o'clock and dinner at 6. Lights out at 9 p.m., and she mustn't forget that. They wake up at 7 in the morning and have breakfast at 7:30. All this information greatly surprised the girl. Naomi said that these are the rules of their orphanage, but otherwise she can do what she wants. She laughed and said that Naomi reminded her of her father. He grumbled at his naughty daughter just like her father. Naomi said nothing. He wondered if they were tears, or if he imagined it. He assumed that it was difficult for her to be alone. Anyway, he didn't have time to think about it. Lucy took Aaron to her room, while Naomi thought that it was much more important to cook dinner right now. He was upset that it was necessary to cook for 3 people. Lucy was holding a small object in her hands and asking if it was the cob of a strong drink. The girl said she found them the other day when she was looking for edible vegetables in the mountains. She also added that she had already changed out of her clothes, which are much more comfortable to move in. Naomi agreed and said that they would prepare the beds for them today. Aaron looked at the buckets of cobs and asked what kind of nonsense it was. She asked if Lucy really went to the dangerous mountains for this. She said the girl was really stupid. Lucy asked Naomi why these cobs were needed. The guy explained that these are fruits for cultivation, although in this world they still do not know how to grow them properly. Lucy was surprised and said admiringly that Naomi understands even this. The guy said that if they could grow them, they could also use them on the farm, for example in cooking. He also added that they can be sold on the market. Aaron said it sounded easy enough, but Naomi had to consider that she wasn't going to help them. Naomi didn't listen to her, but said he was going to occupy the city. Lucy exclaimed that she would help. Naomi's main condition was that she didn't bother him. Lucy exclaimed that this would not happen. She asked if she needed to sort out the weeds. Aaron sighed and said that pulling weeds by hand was just wasting time. Naomi asked what she was talking about. The girl pouted, after which she exclaimed that she was a high elf and also of the royal family. Naturally, she could summon sylphs, wind spirits. Aaron proudly told them to beg her for help, and then maybe she would help. Naomi grinned and said they could handle it on their own. The girl exclaimed loudly, asking what he was saying. Naomi asked what she didn't understand, and then repeated that they didn't need her help. He said they could do well together. Aaron was already shaking with resentment. The girl loudly exclaimed that she didn't care. Lucy turned to Naomi and asked if this was the right thing to do. The guy didn't understand what was wrong. The girl said worriedly that Aaron was really angry. Naomi was sure that Aaron just wanted to show off her magic, to show that she is better than Naomi and take the place of the head at the orphanage. Hearing this, Lucy smiled and sighed. Naomi noticed this and asked what was wrong with her face. The girl put on her hat and said that everything was fine. When the guys started cleaning, they noticed how badly the garden was in. They were getting rid of the weeds, but that didn't make them any less. Pulling out more and more weeds, Naomi stopped for a breather and thought that they would hardly have time to finish today. Suddenly, a strong wind blew over them, which began to carry weeds from their hands in the ground. Noticing the strong wind currents, Naomi immediately turned around. There he saw Aaron, who used magic to disperse the winds. Naomi reminded them of his words, that they could handle it on their own. Lucy tensed up and told the owner that Aaron just wanted to help. Naomi added that it's really faster this way. He told her to keep using magic the same way. Hearing this, Aaron was surprised and blushed a little. She was shy and exclaimed that she had just come here to practice and nothing more. She told him not to think she was helping. Naomi said that, in that case, she should train elsewhere and not interfere with him. The girl exclaimed, asking how dare he. She said that he should ask her properly, and then maybe she would help. Naomi told her to shut up, because he could do without her. Lucy laughed, thinking that they were very similar. After a while, they returned to the shelter building. Aaron thanked Naomi and said it was delicious. Lucy asked the owner if he was going to continue working in the garden today. The guy said no, because they had made room for the garden beds, so they had enough for today. Naomi said that now they need to water on time and give rid of weeds with parasites every day. Lucy agreed and said she would be busy with the city every day. Aaron said it was stupid. She sighed and said that if you water them every day, their roots will just rot. Naomi said that's why they need to be watered every few days. He noted that Aaron was well versed in this. Hearing this, the girl was taken aback. She blushed and said there was nothing wrong with that. She said you'd have to be a fool not to know such obvious things. Naomi didn't understand what was wrong with this girl. He had already repeated several times that they could do without her help, but she still continued to reach out to them with help and advice. Suddenly, an incredible thought came to him, and he thought that this could not be. He looked at Aaron, who was laughing shyly and thought that she had been acting suspiciously and following them all this time. He decided that Aaron wanted to steal a manual for growing hard liquor cops to earn money for her revenge. He smiled cruelly, thinking that Aaron had made a mistake, and she was too naive if she thought she could be more cunning than Naomi. Aaron sighed and said she was going to do the cob. Lucy exclaimed that she would help. Naomi again told the girl not to interfere. He was glad, thinking that he knew she would go with him. While processing the cobs, Naomi told Lucy that the roots are poisonous, so you can only work with them with gloves. It was necessary in order to get rid of the poison. They needed to be boiled, so he told Lucy not to think about eating them if she wanted to live. Aaron, a little offended, noticed that Naomi was extremely kind to Lucy. The guy ignored this and told Lucy to cut out the eyes for now, while he prepared everything else. The girl was surprised. Aaron followed the guy and noticed that he was adding something. She asked what kind of powder it was. Naomi grinned, thinking that he was right and she needed his knowledge. This powder is lime, which he made from the ashes of shells. He thought it was extremely good that he had made it in advance. The guy said he didn't even know what it was. Aaron was surprised, and then she told him to just tell her what it was. Naomi calmly said he wasn't going to tell her anything. Aaron shouted at him not to be greedy, and told him. Naomi grinned, thinking that even this girl's request sounded unnatural. The guy looked at her, thinking that she was extremely impatient, and her character would make her betray the girl's true intentions. He clearly refused her. Hearing this, tears appeared in Aaron's eyes, and she began to shake with resentment. She screamed that she knew it, and he was just laughing at her. After these words, she ran out of the room. Naomi was taken aback. He didn't understand what happened to her, because he behaved like that with everyone. He thought that she didn't need the technology and knowledge of his world. Lucy came up to him and said she seemed to know what he was thinking. The guy was surprised. She apologized for his impertinence and said she couldn't read his mind. Lucy asked if Naomi could catch up with Aaron and tell him that he was worried. The guy said he wasn't worried. He said she left because he annoyed her, and if he followed her, the effect would be different. Lucy said she ran away from home. Naomi was surprised and then immediately rushed after her. He thought he understood her because he had run away once. His parents didn't care where he was, and they weren't looking for him. The worst part was that the child would never want to come back if no one came for him. He wasn't worried about her, but he promised to make sure she would be there for dinner. Suddenly, he saw two people at the entrance. He asked what they needed, also saying that this place was not a pub or a diner. The man laughed and said that Naomi was too condescending. In his hand, he held the jewelry that Aaron was wearing. Naomi asked what they had done to Aaron. Aaron was walking through the woods. She got carried away and ran away. She didn't want to live on the road again. Suddenly, the wind blew, and the girl began to cry. She called Masatsugu a name when she suddenly heard footsteps from behind. She asked who it was when suddenly she was grabbed. Her nose was pinched, and she lost consciousness. Naomi asked the stranger where he had taken Aaron. The man said that the guy was too short-tempered. He told Naomi to talk while he could, because he was going to break up his orphanage. Naomi asked what he was talking about. The man said it was better for the guy to step aside. If he resists, he doesn't guarantee Aaron's safety. Naomi asked what the man was up to. The stranger laughed and said that Naomi didn't need to know. He said that Naomi needed to stand still and watch him destroy the orphanage. He swung his weapon and destroyed the wall. The woman who was with him laughed and asked if this was what he wanted to show her. He said he would turn this place into ruins. Naomi realized that they were just arrogant scum, but they were wrong. He called them names. The man asked if anger had clouded Naomi's mind. He asked if that was all he could say. Naomi took a stance. From behind Naomi, a lot of objects flew at the man. Different pans and pins beat him. The man fell to his knees and asked Naomi to stop. After that, things dropped. Naomi didn't understand what had happened. He was going to scare them and throw them out, but he overdid it. The man screamed and asked if Naomi knew what would happen to him now. Naomi hit him and said he had just cleaned up there this morning. Suddenly, the woman screamed and asked how it happened. Naomi was surprised and asked what she was still doing there. Naomi told her to pick up the man and leave. The woman asked how dare he say that to the best girl in town. She said he wasn't worthy of talking to her. Naomi asked if it was a joke, and then said that her brothel was of poor quality. The woman was furious and said that she was the best in the capital, and that wasn't something Naomi could understand. She had a beautiful body and beauty. Everyone in the country wanted to buy it, and even the king. Everyone was crazy about her. Naomi found it annoying. She screamed that no one could compare with her in beauty. Suddenly, Lucy asked if the chairs and the knife had just been flying towards him. She asked if he was okay. The woman turned pale. Naomi asked if she could see. He said she was no different from the others. He asked if she had forgotten what would happen to those who went against him. The woman gasped, looking at her date. Suddenly, bees appeared behind Naomi. She said she understood, and that she would take the man and leave. She said she understood, and that she would take the man and leave. She grabbed him and ran away, apologizing to them for everything along the way. She asked me not to touch her face. Lucy asked where Aaron was. Naomi said she was caught by the man's friends. Lucy said they needed to go after her. Naomi said that everything was fine and he knew where she had been taken, but it was better for Lucy to stay. His protection skill was triggered when these people came. He cured Lucy and was able to find Aaron. It wasn't just a defensive skill. Bound. Aaron thought she had made a mistake. They took away her dagger. If it's human traffickers, then she's finished. She is ready to fight, even if it cost her her life. But if she dies, she won't be able to return to the orphanage. She won't be able to fight with Masatsugu anymore, and Lucy won't be able to teach her how to help the orphanage. She began to cry because now she understood. Before she knew it, she had come to such a place. Suddenly, she heard a creaking sound. She realized that someone had come for her. She was sure that she would be taken somewhere else. When they opened the box, she was going to attack. She wanted to fight to the end and fight back until she ran out of strength. A light appeared in front of her eyes, and she immediately tried to attack. It was a big blow. She turned around, intending to hit the offender between the legs. Suddenly, she saw Naomi. He asked her what she was doing. The girl saw the kidnappers on the ground. Naomi took off her blindfold. She said it wasn't what he thought. Naomi turned around and said he would go if she didn't want his help. The girl thought he had come to help, but she pushed him instead of thanking him. She apologized to him. Naomi smiled and said he was joking. Aaron was surprised. The guy said she was impulsive because she was really going to fight the kidnappers. He said he's been through a lot too, but he's not as brave as she is. Aaron blushed. She asked if they had killed her. Would he have been upset? The guy said that everyone should sit at the dinner table. If she hadn't come after him every day, he would have thought she was dead. Aaron thought she was the same. Her parents and the others are dead. It's very hard to eat alone. Naomi called her back to the shelter. He held out his hand to her and said he would be sad. The girl blushed and thought that he looked like a knight in armor. Naomi asked what she was doing. He told her to get up. Aaron said she couldn't. Naomi replied that it was expected. The girl began to cry, thinking that he would leave her. Naomi said she was problematic. After that, the main character picked her up, but suddenly, the girl panicked for some reason. He asked her to calm down or she would fall. Her body was shaking and she could hear her heartbeat. She thought he might hear her. He told her to hold on tight or she would fall. He grabbed her, then rushed forward while she screamed in fear. Lucy was worried that they hadn't returned. It wasn't the master, and everything was supposed to be fine, and she could only wait and believe. The doors opened. Lucy greeted them and asked if they were okay. She stopped when she saw Aaron in Naomi's arms. He asked if the girl could stand. She confirmed it. Lucy was silent. Naomi said they were done, and he would clean up the mess he had created on the way back. He asked Lucy to take care of Aaron. The girl put her hand on Aaron's shoulder. Seeing Lucy's gaze, Aaron was scared. Lucy asked why they shouldn't talk. At that moment, more than the kidnappers and more than anything else in the world, Aaron was afraid of Lucy. Together, the guys went out into the city. Naomi said they should get their shop ready. He went to get the box. Aaron sat down on the floor and said she wouldn't help, because she had already helped with the luggage. She asked why she had to do it at all. Naomi said he had no one else to help but the two of them, so there was nothing he could do about it. Erin blushed when she heard about the request. She said there was nothing she could do. Naomi asked why she was smiling. The girl exclaimed that it was not so. Lucy listened to them and laughed. The guys put small dishes on the table. Lucy asked the owner why he made these small balls of strong drink. Naomi said they were samples for testing. The girl didn't understand what it was. Erin exclaimed that it was their meal, or lunch. Naomi said it wasn't like that. Presenting samples is one way to allow the customer to try out the product. Erin said it was stupid, because they were just losing money that way. Naomi said that if you sell the product as it is, people will think that it is poisoned, or it will make you sick. It was clear that they knew about the taste, but other people wouldn't pay for food they didn't know about. Erin said she knew about it. Naomi changed the subject and told me to finish the preparations. He asked the girls to put the sign where it would be visible. It said it was a limited edition, 1 per person. Foreign food, discounted sale for a limited time. This is to attract people and demand for the product, by making it scarce due to the fact that it is from abroad. Erin realized that if they missed the chance, they wouldn't be able to try it anywhere else. Naomi said it was. Erin blushed, because the guy praised her. Naomi said it's not the time for learning, and he's opening a shop. They started inviting people to try one of their shelter's specially made strong drink products. People didn't want to buy the product and thought it was roadside rocks. There was silence. Erin blushed with embarrassment because no one is suitable. Naomi said it was natural. They look like something weird, but they're delicious. Lucy approached a man in the crowd and asked if he wanted to try it. The man said they looked bad. The girl ran from person to person and asked them to try, but they refused. She approached another person and said he didn't need to buy them. The man said that wasn't the problem. Lucy asked him to at least find out how delicious they were. The man blushed and took one. He didn't know if it was safe to eat it. He tried it, which others noticed. She asked him how he was. He said it looked bad, and the fragrance was mediocre, but you could get used to it. He asked where it came from. Naomi was surprised that the man actually ate it. He said it was from Japan, but the man hadn't heard of it and noticed that their food was weird. Naomi said they have a special sale and they are being sold at a discount. The man smiled and took one. Lucy thanked the man loudly. She shook and happily told Naomi that this was their first deal. Naomi said it was too early to celebrate because there was still a lot left. Lucy was happy about their first deal anyway. Erin screamed that they would sell a whole bunch. Suddenly, people started coming up to the girls wanting to try the food. After a while, they were already happy because they had sold everything. Erin said it was because of the plaque she was wearing. Although there were crooks who joined the queue, it was problematic when they asked for more, even though they said everything was sold. Naomi said they needed to prepare for the future, but today they could celebrate. The girl asked how much they earned. Naomi said it was about $10,000 and it wasn't bad. More importantly, they have achieved a stable income, but he wasn't planning on breaking his promise. As the director of the orphanage, he didn't really care about his responsibilities, but at least he could arrange meals for them 3 times a day. At night, Naomi thought she could monopolize the market until merchants started copying the product. He could not rely only on strong drink, and he had to think about other products. Suddenly, Lucy and Erin came and asked if they could sleep with him tonight. Naomi sighed and said he didn't care and was going to sleep. He told them to get into bed quickly. Lucy apologized, and Erin said she didn't want to do it. Naomi told them to just close their eyes and not make him repeat himself, because he was going to sleep. Lucy thanked Naomi, and Erin said she didn't mind sleeping with him if he insisted. The guy didn't want to see them all day, but it would help him sleep well. As soon as everything went dark in front of Naomi's eyes, he heard himself calling his parents. His mother screamed that Masatsugu was not to blame, but his father shouted at her to keep quiet and not tell him what he should do with his son. The guy silently asked them not to swear, but his voice did not reach their ears. He opened his eyes wide as cold sweat flowed down his face. Suddenly, he heard someone crying. Lucy was crying and asking where everyone had gone. She asked me not to leave her. Naomi said he was here. He stroked her. The girl opened her eyes and thanked him for being here. Lucy has nightmares every night because she was in the ministry in the past. Suddenly, Erin jumped up and asked who was there. She said he was going to grab her and started looking for a knife. She had to find him faster before she was caught. Naomi turned to the girl, which brought her back to consciousness. She cried and hugged him. She was the same. Her house was burned down, forcing her to live in exile, which left a deep wound. One day when he was going to the bathroom, a girl suddenly attacked him with a knife in her hands, and he knew something was wrong. He was lucky that he was the attacker and not her. She apologized in tears until she fell asleep. Naomi thought they were very problematic. They don't think about the circumstances of others. Naomi has also experienced a lot from her father, and now he immediately wakes up when he hears something unusual. He gets nervous every time, not knowing what's going to happen. He can't sleep because of Lucy crying every night. Compared to not being able to shower or sleep with them, it wasn't so bad. Until they could overcome their fear, he would have to sleep with them. It's very easy to imagine how beautiful they will be in the future. And when their psychological wounds heal, they will repay him for what he did. That was the purpose of his work. He didn't like it, but he wasn't planning on abandoning them either. During the day, he watered the flowers while Erin complained that she was bored. Lucy admired how beautiful they had grown up to be. They were able to earn a steady income, which was great. He said they had run out of water to irrigate the fields, and they would have to go to the public well to get more. Lucy said she would help. The guy turned to Erin and said that she would help him too, since she was bored. The girl agreed and said that he couldn't do anything without her. Naomi said it wasn't his right to ask for much, but it was very hard that the well was so far away. Lucy agreed with the guy. They looked at the well by the house and said it would be easier if it hadn't dried up. However, it was the same as asking for the impossible. He said it was time for them to go, and then he threw something into the well. Suddenly, they heard a loud scream from there. Surprised, the boys came closer, noticing that the voice was coming from the well. Erin had already taken out her knife. Terrified, Erin and Lucy joined hands. The girls trembled and said it couldn't be. Suddenly, someone grabbed the well from the inside. When Erin and Lucy saw this, they screamed in horror that it was a ghost. Naomi stared at them in a stupor. Suddenly, a girl came out of the well and asked Masatsugu why he was throwing stones at her. Naomi looked annoyed when he saw the girl. A stranger with tears in her eyes exclaimed that it was extremely dangerous to throw things at people. She said it was painful enough. A happy Lucy turned towards the door when she heard her friend's voice. Erin came in and said she was done pulling weeds. Lucy praised her friend and said she would make tea for her now. Erin was surprised and asked where Masatsugu had gone. Lucy explained that the owner had just finished chopping wood, and so he went to take a bath to wash off his sweat. She quickly brought a teapot and a cup. She handed the hot drink to Erin and said that she made it from the leaves that grow in their garden. Erin thanked her friend and then began to drink tea slowly. After taking a few sips, she exhaled easily. She asked what Lucy was doing and why she was sitting on the floor. The girl said it was more comfortable on the floor. She said that she was making an apron now, because the owner said that he would open his stall again, so she decided that he would open his stall again, so she decided to help him. She picked up the apron and asked Erin how she liked it. She laughed sweetly. Erin was surprised to say that she was getting a great subject. Naomi pointed to several stacks of fabrics behind Erin and said that since they had a whole bunch more, she was wondering if her friend would like Lucy to sew something for her. Erin asked where they got so much fabric from. Lucy replied that it was most likely intended for blankets and tablecloths, and she made pajamas out of it. Erin was surprised that Lucy had made them. The girl said that when she was in the ministry, she had to mend clothes, and it was then that she learned many things. Hearing this, Erin felt awkward. She shouted loudly for Lucy to make her an apron. The girl was surprised, but immediately became more cheerful. She agreed with great enthusiasm, after which she invited Erin to make it together. She also said that they could take measurements of Erin in order to sew clothes for her in the future. Erin hesitated, then blushed and asked if Lucy could teach her how to embroider. She asked the girl very sincerely. Lucy turned around in surprise, after which she smiled broadly and happily agreed. She said that, in that case, they could make Erin's apron together. Erin blushed and exclaimed that it didn't mean at all that she was going to help Masatsugu, or something like that. Lucy smiled and agreed. Erin screamed again that she just wanted to try it. Lucy laughed and agreed, although she obviously didn't believe her. She took out the ribbon and asked Erin to straighten her back, after which she began to make the careful measurements necessary to sew clothes for the girl. Along with the measurements, she wrote them down on paper, which was watched by an extremely interested Erin. Lucy told her friend that when her pajamas became too small for her, she would tell Lucy about it, because then she would make her a new one. Erin agreed, and then thanked her friend for it. Lucy said she wanted to keep doing it. Heaps of different clothes, and these things will be very dear memories for all of them in the future. She said it was because their master would be so kind to them. They would make them forever. The girl smiled, although there was a noticeable sadness on her face. Erin noticed this and asked her friend what was wrong. Lucy smiled again and said that there was nothing important there. She raised her hands and said that all measurements were completed. Erin looked at her friend with interest. Lucy happily said that the owner had previously said that he was going to put up a stall in 3 days, so they should try and do everything by this point. Erin was inspired and said that they would certainly do it, and she was going to help her friend. Lucy laughed and said she understood. At that time, Naomi, who had just come out of the shower, was passing by the room where the girls were. He noticed with displeasure that they were making noise again. He wondered what was going on there again. Suddenly, a short girl appears. She screams that it's dangerous to throw things at people. She starts crying. Masatsugu looks at the girl unimpressed. He says with displeasure that it's still morning, but you're already meeting an impatient ghost. And then he chuckles. Masatsugu's companions cling to each other and ask if their master is scared. They were shouting that they had met a ghost. The ghost says that the girls' faces are even scarier than hers. The girl who was mistaken for a ghost sighs heavily and says that she is not really a ghost. The girl says that she is the supreme goddess who is responsible for all the water spirits on this continent. She introduced herself as Shi-Wan-Jin. The girl winks at the guy and says that she can be called Shi-Chan. Masatsugu looks at the girl in disbelief and does not support her suggestion. He says he doesn't have an older sister. He thinks the girl should go to the hospital. Shi-Chan says she has lived for hundreds of thousands of years, so that makes her the oldest. She asks if this is true. Masatsugu says again that the girl is acting strangely. The girl hugs the guy and is outraged because he does not believe her. The guy just mumbled with displeasure. What angered Shi-Chan the most was that he didn't believe her just when she was finally able to appear in front of him in order to thank him. At this time, Lucy was trying to figure out why Shi-Chan wanted to thank her master. She wonders if the goddess is too close. Shi-Chan asks if the guy is a god. The girl thinks so, because he is the one who cleansed the land of filth. She says that it was because of this that she was able to awaken. The girl claims that Masatsugu was able to dispel a strong curse. Masatsugu smiles coolly and says that everything is clear to him, and that he is happy for the girl. He asks the girl for forgiveness and says that their squad needs to go, as they still have a lot of work to do. Masatsugu's squad decided to leave. The girl tried to stop them. She flew up to Masatsugu and told him not to rush. She reminds him that she would like to thank him. Masatsugu asks the girl to speed up. The girl says that the supreme goddesses can only have one mate in their entire lives. She blushed when she started talking about it. The goddess flies up to Masatsugu again and says that she has chosen him. She blushes, closes her eyes, and says she wants to marry him. Masatsugu apologizes for not being able to marry Shi-Chan, as she is not attracted to him. The goddess opens her eyes wide and screams. She was shocked. Masatsugu says that the girl must leave them now. Shi-Chan says she doesn't want to marry someone who isn't as strong as Masatsugu. She claimed that Masatsugu was kind and could stand up for himself. Masatsugu apologizes and says that he has a lot to do. He claims that he is raising young children from an orphanage. The goddess says that if the guy agrees to her proposal, he can become a god. Masatsugu replies that he is not interested in it. The girl offers partial immortality. The guy thinks it sounds harsh. Shi-Chan is crying and shaking. She asks what the guy thinks as she fills the dried-up well. She says that in this case, the guy will no longer have to go to the city to get water. Shi-Chan asks the guy not to force her to leave. She says she won't ask a guy to marry her anymore. Masatsugu looks at her with displeasure and swears. Shi-Chan asks the guy not to hate her. She summons a local divine rain. Masatsugu says he doesn't hate the girl. He claims that she just annoys him because she keeps up. The girl calms down for a second and asks if the guy really doesn't hate her. The clouds suddenly parted. She wonders if the guy would mind marrying her. She snuggles up to the guy again and says he's very shy. Masatsugu suddenly says that he has changed his mind. He says that the girl causes him negative emotions. Shi-Chan asks what it means. One of the girls attracts the owner's attention. The girl apologizes for interrupting Masatsugu and Shichan. Masatsugu pushes Shichan away from him and turns to the girl, asking what she wants. The girl looks gloomy. She raises her hand and says she wants to talk to Shichan. The companions grab Shichan by both hands and leave with her. Shichan is very surprised. Eren turns around and looks at Masatsugu. She walks up to him. The guy at that moment asks if she's going to go with Shichan. Eren stared at the guy and asked him to listen to her. She spoke negatively about the goddess's appearance. Masatsugu asks what it means. Eren becomes more serious and says that in a few years she will grow up and her body will change. Eren said Masatsugu should remember that. Then Eren leaves and slams the door behind her. Masatsugu looks at the door and tries to figure out what happened. There was crying in the shelter. The goddess was crying because she agreed to be the third wife, despite the fact that she is the elder sister. Masatsugu says he doesn't even know what the girls were talking about. He decides to ask about the well. Masatsugu says that until the girl restores the well, she may not even think about staying with him. The goddess waves her hand towards the well and says she knows about it. She was able to get the water back. Masatsugu asks the girl to be more serious. There is indeed water in the well. The girls look at her admiringly, surprised that the water is directly pouring out of the well. Masatsugu looks into the well and does not understand how such a thing is possible. Masatsugu rubs the back of his head and says it will be easier to get water now. He says he got another troubled girlfriend instead. The guy looks at the goddess and thinks that even though she is over 100,000 years old, mentally, she is the same age as Lucy. Lucy approaches the goddess at this moment and says that Shichan is incomparable. The girl says she knows about it. Masatsugu looks at the girls in disbelief and thinks that it's more like looking at a dog, not a child. Then the guy turns his head to the side and realizes that the girl's water has been cleansed of filth thanks to his skill. Masatsugu wonders why his defensive skill is capable of such a thing. He believed that there were many things related to his power that he did not understand. Masatsugu pours water into a barrel. Lucy appears next to him and says that's enough for now. Eren says they did a good job. Masatsugu leaves and says he's going to take a cold bath. Shichan was watching him the whole time. The girl ran up to the guy and asked her to wait. She says she can also create hot water. The guy looked at her with displeasure and asked what it meant. Shichan folds her arms and says it's a piece of cake for her to create the perfect hot water temperature. She claims that this is a luxury that the royal family no longer has. Shichan asks if the guy sees that she can be useful. Masatsugu still looks at her unimpressed, but agrees anyway. Shichan is touched by how affectionate Masatsugu is. Masatsugu says at this point that instead of thinking of her as a fake goddess, he now thinks she's some kind of sorceress. The girl swears at him. Lucy runs up to Masatsugu and says she will wash him. She claims to be able to wash his back. Masatsugu says he doesn't need any help since he can handle it on his own. Eren blushes and says that Lucy is bothering the guy. That's why she's going to wash Masatsugu's back. Lucy shouts indignantly at Eren. Masatsugu repeats again that he doesn't need anyone's help. Shichan hugs everyone and says that in that case they should all go and wash up. And also to put yourself in order. Masatsugu strikes the goddess and says she's annoying. Shichan asks why the guy thinks that. Masatsugu asks Shichan not to make him repeat himself. He says once again that he will take a bath alone. Lucy blushes. And then he says that the owner has a logical reason for bathing together. Masatsugu asks what the reason is. Lucy says that if the four of them don't go for a swim, they won't be able to wash each other's backs. Masatsugu smiles and says he's ready to think about the girl's words as she tells him. Then he sighs and asks what the problem is. Masatsugu clings that they can wash their backs on their own. Lucy closes her eyes and says that the guy is probably really very experienced. She believes that he has enough experience to wash his back on his own. Then Lucy abruptly opens her eyes and says that her and Eren's bodies are small. She says it will be difficult for them to wash them on their own. Masatsugu hesitantly asks if Eren and Lucy really think that. They smoke out a positive response. Masatsugu says that in this case they will just need to wash each other's backs. Lucy argues that this is an illogical decision. Masatsugu asks what the girl just said. He wonders if the girl really wants to say that he is acting illogically. Lucy lowers her head and says she's not that arrogant. Lucy becomes more serious and says that if there are only 3 of them, they will end up in a triangle and will not be able to wash each other's backs. She says there should be 4 of them. Masatsugu looks at the girl and says that everything is clear to him. Lucy says that if they do that, it will take a very long time and they may catch a cold. She says that's why it's more logical to go with 4 people at the same time. Shima-chan grabs everyone's hands and leads them to the bathroom. She says she's tired of conflict. She suggests going to the bathroom and relieving all accumulated fatigue. Everyone goes to the bathroom. Shi-chan spreads his arms and admires the space of the bathtub. Lucy is sitting on the tile at this moment and says that this is no longer a sauna, but a hot spring. At this time, Erin says that the last time she took a bath was about a year ago. Lucy snuggles up to Masatsugu and says that it's very warm next to him. Masatsugu bends the body forward, and then he says it's just hot water. Erin says that even though a guy says things like that, he's still happy to have girls around him. Masatsugu gets tense and asks why the girl thinks that. Erin asks the guy to forget about it as it's time to wash his backs. Shi-chan screams with joy. Everyone sits down behind each other and starts rubbing each other's backs. Erin turns around and looks at Masatsugu, smiling. She asks if the guy is happy. She says he has the privilege of washing the princess back. Masatsugu smiles and says it would be an honor for him. He claims that he is so happy that he cannot contain his admiration. Erin blushes and covers her face with her hand. She abruptly gets up from her seat and asks what all this means. Erin claims that the guy talks like a knight. She's breathing heavily and can't calm down. Masatsugu lifts the sponge and asks if he can continue. He turns to Erin, who was still standing there, blushing. The girl sits down with her back to Masatsugu, and the guy starts rubbing her back. Erin blushes and asks the guy to continue. Masatsugu is wondering what is going on at this moment. Shi-chan jumps on the guy's back and asks him to wash her back. The guy pays attention to the fact that the girl is clinging to him. He looks at her in disbelief. Shi-chan looks at the guy with a smile and asks if he is really confused because she is holding him so close to her. Masatsugu gives a negative answer. He looks gloomily at the girl and says that he had a strange feeling as if he was being hugged by a cow. Shi-chan screams out of anger and frustration. The girl says she is not an animal. Masatsugu says he doesn't care. He asks the girl to let Erin wash her back. Shi-chan gets cranky and says she wants Masatsugu to wash her back. Masatsugu sighs heavily and looks at the girl with displeasure. He agrees and says that he will show the girl the traditional way of washing her back used in his world. Masatsugu asks if the girl can create a lot of water so that it looks like a waterfall. Shi-chan says he will do it. The girl starts using water magic and says that she can even cause rain in a huge area. The girl raises her hands, which causes a strong splash of water. Masatsugu asks the girl to make the water as cold as possible. The girl listens. Masatsugu then asks the girl to go and stand under the water. The girl gets under the water and screams. She thinks it's just a training session under a waterfall. Masatsugu understands that the girl knows about it. He clucks. The guy says that in his homeland, this method of purification was used for religious purposes. He thinks it would be very appropriate for a goddess like Shi-chan. Shi-chan suddenly screams for the guy to stop, as it's inappropriate. Masatsugu pushes the girl forward and says she annoys him. He demands that the girl just go ahead. Shi-chan stands under the waterfall and screams because he feels the cold water. She turns around and asks if the guy wants her to feel bad. The girl grabs the guy by the arm and pulls him towards her. She says the guy feels the same way. Shi-chan dragged the guy into the waterfall, despite the fact that the guy was screaming. Masatsugu falls under a waterfall and screams because he's very cold. He swears at the goddess and calls her stupid. Shi-chan screams that she won't let him go. Lucy anxiously looks at the owner and wants to help him. Erin says at this point that Masatsugu is not going anywhere. Shi-chan yells at Masatsugu. She asks what the guy thinks about why she woke up from her millennial dream. She says it was all to play family with Masatsugu. Masatsugu says he doesn't care. He asks the girls to go and play somewhere else. Shi-chan shouts at Masatsugu again. Masatsugu gets angry and says that he really promised that he would teach Lucy how to play, but he did not say that he would play with her. Lucy claims that Masatsugu is the only one who can play the role of father. Suddenly, a bell rings. The guy turns around and asks what kind of visitor has come to them. An old man comes into the shelter and apologizes for disturbing him in the early morning. He greets Masatsugu. A man with a scar on his face appears behind him. Masatsugu notices that the elderly man is using a cane. He was worried about a man who was behind an elderly man. The elderly man chuckles. It seems to him that Masatsugu is really skilled. He read about it in the newspaper. He's glad that he didn't take the rumors about Masatsugu seriously. Masatsugu asks what the older man wanted. He believes that people like him have nothing to do in his orphanage. The older man asks him to excuse him and says that they have something very important to discuss. He asks if he can come in. Masatsugu's visitors don't seem like simple people he could just turn down. He agrees anyway and says that the visitors can come inside. An elderly man introduces himself by the name of Kinbird Titano. He was the head of the Kinbird family. He points to the man behind him and says it's his son named Theo. He claims that Theo is the future head of their family. Masatsugu says, "It's nice to meet you." The older man suggests that some of their family members used to have some kind of dealings with Masatsugu. Masatsugu asks if the older man is talking about multiple kidnappers. The guy assumes that the man came to take revenge. It seems to Masatsugu that this makes the situation easier. He could have taken care of the same as that couple before handing them over to the authorities. The man asks the guy not to jump to conclusions. The man raises his hand and says that he is not going to repeat after the kidnappers. He asks Masatsugu to calm down. Masatsugu narrows his eyes and asks why the man came to him. It was difficult for him to understand the man. The man says it's bad for the heart of an elderly man like him. The man says that the kidnappers had to collect a debt from the previous shelter manager. The kidnappers had already harmed them, so he planned to kick them out of the family after that. The man knew that the previous manager had been away for a very long time. But only a month ago, he heard about the new one who took over the management of the orphanage, and realized that it was not the old one, but the new manager. The man says that the kidnappers thus tried to complete their mission in other ways, which led to the trouble they caused them. Masatsugu stops the man and says he still doesn't understand why the man came to him. He doesn't think he needs to explain that he has nothing to do with the previous manager's debt. Masatsugu also doesn't remember the king saying anything about debts. An elderly man at this moment asks his son to show the paper. The man asks Masatsugu to tell him how much he knows about the orphanage system. The guy asks about the system. The elderly man says that the land and privileges of the orphanage are separate from the country and belong only to the manager, and in particular, the shelter still belongs to the previous manager. The man shows the document and says that it is proof of this fact. He says his job at this place is just to run the right business. Masatsugu assumes that the man wants to take advantage of the privileges of the shelter as payment for the debt. That's why the man wants them to leave. Masatsugu looks at the man and asks if there is a way to pay off only part of the debt to begin with. The man says that this is a special case, as there has been no payment for a long time. Therefore, he would like to receive it as soon as possible. Masatsugu asks how much the debt is. The man replies that it's 10 million. The guy thinks it's quite a lot. He asks about paying a third of the debt and if there is any alternative. The man says it's out of the question and they need to think about it. Girls come out of the rooms and shout that they don't want the shelter to close. They all fell to the floor and started crying. Erin cries and says she's going to be a good girl, so she asked the guy to stay at the orphanage. Shi-chan cried and said she didn't want to leave either. Masatsugu turns around and asks what the girls are talking about. Lucy hides behind the sofa and says that they have heard that the orphanage will be taken over as payment for the debt. Masatsugu says he won't let that happen. Masatsugu shifts his gaze and asks the girls if they really think that the head of a rich family has come a long way to come to a poor place and claim a debt. The older man says that Masatsugu is right. He claims that he has a task for him. He calls the guy an S-rank adventurer candidate, and that he wants Masatsugu to bring him 5 mid-level recovery potions. He says that if the guy completes this assignment, he will think about paying off the debt. Masatsugu asks about the potions. The guy is tense because the man knows about his conversation with Duran and that he is an S-rank adventurer candidate. Erin leans forward and says that the potion is like a medicine. She claims that it can heal wounds and even acts as an antidote. The girl continues and says that if we are talking about intermediate-level potions, they are rarely found in the city market. She says that even elves who are experts in creating potions rarely make potions of this level, and only by coincidence. The older man says they're collecting them all over the country, but they still don't have enough. His son is seriously ill. He needs to drink mid-level recovery potions. Theo's father and grandfather bow down. The man says that Masatsugu is his last hope. He asks him to accept the assignment. Masatsugu is thinking about parental affection and the family path at this moment. It didn't matter to him. Masatsugu lost it all a long time ago in childhood. The guy was walking down the street. Suddenly, he was called out and asked to stop. Masatsugu turns around and sees Lucy, who was breathing very heavily. Masatsugu asked what the girl and everyone else were doing in this place. The girls say that they sewed to help him. Lucy asks if the guy is really looking for the ingredients for the potion. She's confident that this time, they will be able to help the guy. Shichan winks and offers to protect their shelter. She promises to do her best for Masatsugu. Aaron smiles and suggests that the guy will need help. She says she has extensive knowledge in making potions. Lucy blushes and says she can look for the herbs Masatsugu needs by their scent. She wonders how this can be considered something bad. Masatsugu turns away and grunts. He goes ahead and says that the girls can do whatever they want. The girls look at each other and smile. They cheerfully shout that they will protect the shelter. Aaron begins to draw on the ground with a stick. She says that a potion is a type of medicine that is created by mixing plant leaves and a high-concentration magical liquid. The girl claims that in their case, they need cure plants and magic liquid. She suggests starting by looking for plants. Aaron turns to Lucy. The girl immediately jumps up and abruptly says that her team can rely on her. Lucy was glad that it was her time to help her master. She planned to try to find as many plants as possible. Lucy stands up straight and starts using her powers. She opened her eyes and pointed to the side, saying that she could smell the fragrance of cure plants. Masatsugu says he expected something like this from the beast race. The other girls tried to stop Lucy. They asked her not to run far away. Masatsugu said that the girl needed to stay close enough so that they could protect her. Lucy turns around abruptly and apologizes. She smiles and says she couldn't help herself. Aaron points out that Masatsugu said it like a real knight. Lucy asks the guy to protect her. Shichin laughs and mocks the guy. Masatsugu is thinking at this moment that he should have gone alone. Lucy happily announces that they have found the right plant. She goes up to the tree and says that the smell only gets stronger in this place. She assumes that it is in this place that they grow in large numbers. Shi-chan approaches Lucy and happily informs her that she has found a lot of the right plants. Shi-chan asks Lucy to take a look. She says she feels amazing. She asks Lucy if she's right. Lucy sniffs at the plant and says that it really looks very much like curare, but in fact it was a gift that is used to make poisons. Shi-chan screams indignantly. Lucy says that curare plants have a slightly sweet smell, unlike gift plants. Shi-chan argues that it is difficult for a beginner to understand such a difference. She says Lucy will have to check each plant by scent. Masatsugu approaches the girl and asks her to let him take a look. He examines the plants and says that everything is clear to him. It tells you where the gift plant is and where the curer is. He asks the girls to put aside the plants he has chosen. Masatsugu turns to Aaron and asks how many plants they need in order to make a potion. Aaron stops the guy abruptly and asks how he distinguishes the plant. Masatsugu responds that leaves are not the only way to distinguish plants from each other. Aaron chuckles questioningly. Masatsugu says that it becomes clear when you compare the stems. It shows that the curare has a round stem, and the gift plant has a semicircular one. Lucy approaches Masatsugu and admires his amazing powers of observation. Masatsugu says that when a person needs to eat wild plants, this is the basic principle. Startled, Aaron asks about wild plants. Masatsugu confirms that he ate them. The guy says that there were times when he had no other way to avoid hunger, so he had to eat what he could find. Aaron still can't believe it. She says that only the eldest elves know about it. The guy says that where he comes from, it's quite normal to know for those who are interested in cooking. For him, it's like distinguishing garlic from onions. Aaron asks if it's true. Masatsugu and the girls stack all the plants they found. Aaron says that this amount should be enough. She says it's more than enough. Aaron says it's because their goal is to make a medium-level potion, not just a regular one. That's why they'll need a lot more plants. The girl says that before that they will need a magic liquid. Shi-chan smiles and asks that it be provided to her. The girl starts using water magic. Aaron watches her and says that she has never seen mana and water mixed into such a beautiful, magical liquid. Aaron says it usually dissipates within a few minutes of being created. Shi-chan smiles and says that her magic can last for years. Aaron picks up the plants and mortar, saying that it's finally time for mixing. The girl says that first she will grind the curare until it looks like a gel. Then the girl offers to mix it with a magic liquid. She says that when they stir, they use mana to observe the reaction. The girl claims that this is the most difficult part. She sighs and starts stirring. Aaron reports that everything is ready. Everyone looks at the potion in surprise. Aaron is at this point asking if anyone can make an assessment of this potion. Masatsugu says it's a common potion. Aaron takes the potion and turns to her friends. Lucy says everything went well. Aaron says it's all thanks to a good quality magic liquid. She says they were able to make a regular potion on the first try. Aaron says that's about how this potion is made. She says they need to do more now. Lucy says she wants to try making a potion too. Shi-chan supports her. Lucy looks at her friends seriously and says it's her turn. She promised that she would try. The girl grinds the plant and asks if there will be enough plants. Aaron examines the mortar carefully and says that Lucy needs to grind more. She says the girl doesn't have to stop until the mixture is sticky. Masatsugu looks and thinks that they no longer have any plants. At this point, Lucy says that they should now move on to the mixing phase. Aaron wishes her luck. Lucy carefully mixes the ingredients. Then she sighs heavily and says she was able to do it. She closes her eyes and asks Masatsugu to evaluate the potion. Masatsugu examines the potion and says that it is unsuccessful. Lucy screams in displeasure. Lucy says it's quite difficult to make it. Aaron says that a girl needs a lot of training in order to make a good potion. She mentions that even a failed healing potion can still suppress hunger. Lucy tries the potion and says it's very bitter. Aaron smiles and says that at least the girl is holding the bowl with good manners. Lucy thanks her. Shi-chan attracts attention and says that now it's her turn to brew a high-level potion. She says that she will show Masatsugu what the divine spirit is capable of. Shi-chan begins to actively grind the leaves. Then she abruptly started mixing it with the magic liquid. Shi-chan screams that it's time for the final part. She asks Masatsugu to watch carefully. Masatsugu looks at the girl unimpressed and asks if she can work more quietly. Shi-chan uses mana and screams. Masatsugu looks at the girl and it seems to him that in this process something is clearly different from Aaron's potion. He assumes that she was indeed the leader of the water spirits. Shi-chan picks up the potion and demands that everyone watch. Aaron examines the potion and says that everything is bad. She throws the potion and says it's about to explode. Masatsugu and Lucy chuckle questioningly. An explosion occurs. When the smoke clears, Masatsugu comes out, holding heavily and rejoicing that he managed to protect the girls. He says that Shi-chan was lucky that his defensive skill was activated. Shi-chan starts crying loudly and apologizes. Masatsugu looks at the divine spirit and asks if she is the spirit of death. He claims that she could have harmed them. The smoke completely dissipates. The girls were stacking mortars and vials for the potion that was left. Aaron looks at the vials and says she can make a simple potion. But something was wrong. She was faced with the problem of creating intermediate-level potions. Lucy apologizes and says it's because she's useless. Shi-chan says it's not true. She claims that she failed as an older sister because she couldn't protect their home. Lucy cries and says she doesn't want to leave everyone. Shi-chan says he doesn't want to break up either. Masatsugu picks up the potion and chuckles. He asks how much longer the girls will pointlessly complain. He says he needs to look at the potion. Aaron looks at Masatsugu and says he can't control his magic. The guy says that in this case, he will try to succeed. The girls look at the guy in surprise. Masatsugu picks up a plant and begins to grind them first, and then mix them. The guy picks up a potion and begins to conjure. He opens his eyes and looks at the potion. He says he was able to make a mid-level potion. The girls stare at Masatsugu and the potion in amazement. Everyone runs up to Masatsugu and starts hugging him. The girls are happy and say that Masatsugu is great. The girls are happy and say that Masatsugu is great. The girls also started thanking him. Aaron asks why it was possible to make the potion right now. Masatsugu says there are 2 points. He claims that the first one is the freshness of the ingredients. Aaron asks how freshness affects the potion. Masatsugu compares the potion to vegetable soup. The girl looks at the guy in disbelief. Masatsugu says he confirmed this by looking at her work. He compares it to using manna as a seasoning. The girl asks what the guy is talking about. She had never heard of such a thing before. Masatsugu says that potions are, generally speaking, an extremely difficult mixture that needs to be carefully processed. Aaron gets angry and says that this level of skill would take decades of effort to eventually do the right thing. Masatsugu says it was a mistake. He says that when making vegetable soup, they will also have to chop the vegetables and use pasta, mixing everything together with the broth and seasoning. Masatsugu says that when it comes to cooking, the freshness of ingredients is extremely important. He says that the pilgrimage to the vegetable markets in the past world was worth it. The girl is surprised that their master was doing something like that. Masatsugu smiles and says that he should have checked them with his own eyes. Touched them. Lucy remembers and realizes that it wasn't quite like that. Masatsugu says that the second point is to pour in a large amount of high-purity mana. Lucy mentions something about controlling the master's magic. Masatsugu agrees with her. And then he says he can use some resurrection magic, so he just poured his magic liquid. Everyone is surprised. Aaron asks who will use great magic, like resurrection, to make potions. Masatsugu continues and says that as a result, the affinity with the magic liquid was high. Resurrection is a spell that heals living beings filled with a magical liquid called blood. He says that if this is not the case, then the theory does not match. Masatsugu finishes his story. Aaron's face darkens. She says it worked in the end, so she has no choice but to believe it. She believes that this will lead to the rewriting of books. Shi-Chin covers his mouth with his hand and says that if they announce this, it will undoubtedly cause a big uproar. Lucy screams that this is a victory of thought. Masatsugu holds the potion in his hand and says that it is better not to make this method public. He says that money-related things tend to get people into trouble. Masatsugu claims that they can finish this task and save the shelter. Aaron says that if they do that, then some of the priorities will be shifted back. Masatsugu says what the other 4 potions will do right now. Everyone cheers. Masatsugu takes a bunch of potions and says that now all 5 are ready. Lucy smiles and says that now they definitely won't lose the shelter. The guy suddenly freezes and covers Lucy's mouth with his hand. He tells her to be quiet. Everyone is looking away. Masatsugu says at this moment that someone is coming towards them. A few seconds later, monsters jump down from the tree. They look at Masatsugu with predatory eyes. Shi-Chan screams and calls the creatures Gale Goblins. These are forest killers who use skills one by one, acting as a team. She says they are praised as the strongest representatives among all goblins. The girl claims that they are equal to S-rank monsters. The goblins say they were hiding for a lot of money, but they saw something interesting. Goblin says he smelled a pretty high-quality potion. He claims that their king will be pleased. Aaron doesn't understand which king the goblin is talking about. Goblin demands that people give him potions. He says that if they don't, then they will all be defeated. Lucy glares at the goblins and demands that these jokes stop. She says these potions are more important than their lives. Aaron says they don't have anything to give to inferior beings like them. Shi-Chan also defended herself. The goblin smiles maliciously and asks if Masatsugu's squad would really do that. He claims that they chose to be defeated. Masatsugu and his team wanted to protect the shelter so that it wouldn't happen, but it was unknown if they would be able to resolve this conflict. While the goblin was talking about how Masatsugu's squad had chosen to be defeated, the guy was looking around and preparing to defend himself. The entire Masatsugu squad was surrounded by the strongest goblin race, known for their amazing teamwork. The goblin starts moving fast. He speaks negatively about the Masatsugu squad. He believes that if they had not resisted, they could have avoided the worst consequences. The goblin looks away and notices that his friend's arm has been cut off. His companion screamed and fell. The goblin leader doesn't understand what happened. Masatsugu holds the goblin's hand and squeezes it harder. He glares at the goblins and says they are even more noisy than she. The goblins start growling. And Masatsugu says at that moment that he was thinking that they could settle everything peacefully. Masatsugu says that the goblins try to take the lives of the daughters of his orphanage, which makes him feel uncomfortable. He throws his hand aside and says it's time to exterminate all the pests. One of the goblins asks who the guy called a pest. The second goblin says that they are the elite. He couldn't let Masatsugu treat them like this. The goblin leader points at Masatsugu and says he won't let him treat them like that. Lucy screams in fright. At this moment, Masatsugu abruptly finds himself next to the goblin and stabs him. Then he grabs his arm and pulls him back. While the goblins watch their comrade fly away, Masatsugu managed to approach them and take the knives. The goblins turned around in surprise. The goblins screamed furiously because Masatsugu had taken their knives. The guy abruptly launches knives at the goblins. The goblin leader sees weapons flying at his comrades. He starts to get angry and growl. Masatsugu turns around and glares at the goblins. The remaining opponents decided that they should run to at least inform the king. As the goblins ran, Masatsugu grabbed a knife and threw it at one of the goblins, saying he would not let them escape. Goblins fall to the ground. Masatsugu stands there for a while, and then turns around and says that they wasted their time. He says it's time for them to go back. Lucy runs up to Masatsugu. She is glad that Masatsugu is thinking about their safety. Masatsugu chuckles questioningly. Eren remembers Masatsugu's phrase about the orphanage's daughters. Shi-Chain blushes and says that it embarrasses her for some reason. Masatsugu takes the basket and asks the girls not to get carried away. He says that it is the responsibility of the director to monitor the safety of the orphans of the orphanage. The girl continues to rejoice anyway. Masatsugu turns around and says it's time for them to go. Everyone listens. The squad is coming back. But it seems strange to them that there was no one in the city. Lucy says this place is usually full of people buying something for dinner at this hour. Eren turns to Masatsugu and asks if there can be some kind of celebration on this day. Then the guy notices two guys. Masatsugu realizes that these are his former classmates. He wondered what they were doing in this place. Lucy notices Masatsugu's strange expression and turns to him, asking what happened. The guy replied that everything was fine. He turned around and took one last look at his former classmates. The elderly man arrived at the shelter again. He immediately met Masatsugu. Masatsugu asks what Titano was doing at their shelter. It was hard for the man to break the news. He says that by order of the king, it was decided that the orphanage would be confiscated. All the girls stare at the older man in shock. Masatsugu looked at him with displeasure as new problems appeared. He did not understand what was the reason for the royal order. Masatsugu asks if the man is really going to take the shelter away from him. He says they were going to pay off the debts for the orphanage with medium recovery potions. He asks if they have agreed on a postponement. All the girls support Masatsugu. Lucy starts crying and says Titano is terrible. She was unhappy with the way it happened, even though her master's potions had finally become popular. The older man begins to understand the reason for the orphanage's debts. He tries to say something else, but Masatsugu interrupts him. The guy says he doesn't care. The man noticed that Masatsugu was getting angrier every day. He tries to justify himself by saying that he is just following the orders of the kingdom. The guy asks if the man really wants to say that the public finances of this kingdom and his orphanage have nothing in common. The man confirms this information. The man says that when the war starts, they will have nowhere to store the necessary equipment to support the army. He continues and says that when this happens, the king will stop caring about his appearance and will start ceding land, no matter what the cost. The guy asks if the girls really haven't heard anything about their relationship with the neighboring kingdom. He claims that they are not very good. He reminds me that they talked about it this morning. Suddenly, a man comes running to them, who attracts Masatsugu's attention. The guy recognizes Doran. The man asks to be listened to. Masatsugu is stressed out by the fact that first the head of the mafia comes to him, and now the guildmaster. He felt very annoyed about it. A man reports that a procession of goblins has begun. He claims that they will be held in this place at about noon. Eren and all the other girls are very surprised. Masatsugu looks at the man questioningly. At that time, civil servants gathered on the street. They have finished evacuating the residence. The guy with the blonde hair said it was time for them to get ready. He invited everyone to come forward. The dark-haired guy asks about the goblin invasion. He asks why they attach so much importance to the fact that the Goblin King will pass through the kingdom. The girl in the hood says that this is a legendary event that left nothing but ruins. The girl continues and talks about how when the Goblin King is born, the goblins, who usually live an unorganized life, begin to gather together, And when that day comes, they all march. The girl with short hair asks if the Goblin King really wants to start a war, and that if the king is gone, the goblins will become disorganized again. The girl says that before they reach the king, they will have to go through thousands of goblins who make up his personal guard. The dark-haired guy says that even though the girl claims so, she should not have forgotten that they are heroes from another world. He is confident that they will not lose to any number of goblins. The girl in the hood looks at the guy and says that she absolutely believes in him and his victory. The guy pulls out his sword and says it's finally time for him to contribute his legacy to this kingdom. He says he can defeat the king with the holy sword. The guy starts swinging his sword. The rest of the squad comes up to him and says it could be dangerous. The dark-haired guy smiles darkly and speaks negatively about goblins. He says they are not dangerous enemies. The guy also claims that while they have an afternoon nap, he will take care of all the pests. The girl looks ahead gloomily. Masatsugu finally understands what's going on. Lucy repeats that there will be a direct clash with the goblins. Aaron says that no one can stand up to an entire army of goblins no matter how many heroes fight. She claims that this is comparable to a death sentence. Masatsugu can hardly believe that spoiled guys will be able to participate in some deadly battle, not to mention a war. He wonders why they made such a decision. The guy thinks that at this moment they have about the same feelings as they had in the previous world. Masatsugu says that, judging by the situation, he won't have time to meet them before everything starts. The man becomes more serious and then bends down and begs Masatsugu to help save the kingdom. The man asks if the entire adventurer guild really relies on him alone. Masatsugu says that the entire guild will rely on a newcomer with a dubious background like his. The man takes a scroll out of his pocket and says that the guild operates on a service system. The guy looks at the scroll and wonders what his achievements are doing in it. It seems to him that this can be compared to business. The man says that because of Masatsugu's exploits in destroying the Oracle Com Sword and curbing the rampage of the A-rank adventurer, all the leaders approved of it. The man says Masatsugu is without a doubt one of the few who has S-rank strength. He says that the guild can only gather about 300 people, and he claims that there is no one but him who could lead their combined force of 10,000 people. He says that if they want to protect their homes from the goblin invasion, they will need the strength of someone with Masatsugu's power. The man continues to persuade Masatsugu and says that none of the other S-rank adventurers will be able to return until noon the next day. He believes that at this rate, the kingdom will be destroyed. He begs Masatsugu for help again. Masatsugu asks Dorn to raise his head. He says he understood the situation. The man raises his head and asks what the guy has decided. Masatsugu smiles and says he's leaving. Dorn begs Masatsugu to save the country. Masatsugu looks at the man unimpressed and says that he does not want to participate in this, which greatly impresses him. Dora asks why Masatsugu refuses to participate in this. He tries to convince him that if the country falls, the orphanage will also be destroyed. Masatsugu says it's not his job. He claims to be employed at the orphanage. He asks the man to ask some other soldiers to help them. Dorn continues to beg Masatsugu. He tries to persuade him by paying a lot for his help. He's offering 5 million for the job. Then he changes his offer to 10 million. Masatsugu looks haughtily at the man and says that he is not too busy with the issue of buying out the orphanage. The man continues to beg Masatsugu for help. Masatsugu opens his eyes wide, realizing something. He says the solution is pretty simple. The man asks what happened. Masatsugu says that something good has happened, as he has figured out how to solve all their problems. Lucy looks at the guy questioningly. Masatsugu turns to the head of the Kinbird family. He says he has to stop asking for a ransom for Luna's shelter. The man tries to resist, but Masatsugu demands that he be allowed to finish. Masatsugu turns to the guildmaster and asks if he is really offering a reward of 10 million. The man says it is, and swears by the name of Guildmaster Doran. Masatsugu closes his eyes and says he wants him to pay the Kinberg family. Everyone looks at the guy in surprise. The guildmaster asks what this means. Masatsugu says that's the only way he'll accept the assignment. The guy explains that in this way, the debts of the orphanage will be paid, and the Kinbird family will receive their rights. Masatsugu thinks that the guild will be able to hire him in this case. But he clarifies that the reward must be paid in advance. The guildmaster smiles and asks how he can refuse such an offer. He is confident that with Masatsugu's help, they will be able to defeat the goblins. Masatsugu turns to the head of the kinbird family and asks if he agrees to such conditions. The man says that as the head of the kinbird family, he will accept the guy's offer. Masatsugu says that in that case, everything is settled. He also claims that he does it only once. He says he simply has no other options to protect the shelter. Everyone disperses. Masatsugu turns around and sees Lucy, who has put on a bowler hat and picked up a fork. She says she wants to go with the guy. Erin comes up to them and says she'll join them too. Erin says she wants to protect her new home. Shi-chan also comes up to them and says that if they lose the shelter, they will have nowhere else to go. But she doesn't think it's right to always rely on Masatsugu. She argues that they should protect their home together, as they are a family. Masatsugu thinks about the words about family. He looks at the orphanage and realizes that this is the place where their family will return to. He is pleased that his students are so diligent. He's smiling, and he agrees that they need to protect the house as a family. All day long, all the residents of the shelter were preparing for battle. Erin spread the map out on the table. She pointed her finger at the place where the battle would begin, on the Nalian Plains. Erin says that if they go to the carriage immediately, they will be in time for the start of the battle. Lucy looks at the map and says it would be nice to join the adventurers and the army to gather information. Masatsugu refuses this offer. He points to the place where their target will be located. These were the Nala Plains in the northwestern region. Masatsugu and the girls arrived at the scene. The guy puts down the bags of things and says that they will stay in this place for a day, just like in a camp. He asks the girls to help him set up a tent. Lucy picks up the bag and says she took some soup with her. Shi-chan enjoys the soup. Masatsugu approaches the girl and tells them to make the bonfire as small as possible so that there is almost no smoke, since they are not on a picnic. Erin suddenly screams, asking what they are doing in this place. She points out that it's not just the allies who will come to this place. Not even the goblins will come. Masatsugu says they don't need to meet the army. He claims that all they need to do is hunt down the Goblin King. Lucy chuckles questioningly and then says that, given Doran's words, the Goblin King will be quite difficult to find. Shi-chan points out that the kingdom has already tried to do this, but the attempt was unsuccessful. Masatsugu claims that they can win if they take advantage of the situation. He says they're using the army as bait. The girls look at the guy in surprise and ask what it means. Masatsugu asks if the girls are serious about not understanding anything yet. Masatsugu says that when the royal army arrives, the goblins will be busy fighting. Erin says that then they can strike. Masatsugu says that the girl thinks right. Erin was glad that the guy praised her. Shi-chan looks at the guy admiringly and says he's amazing. She thinks this is how the guy can save the world. Masatsugu says that in order for this plan to work, he will need all his students. Lucy asks if he really needs all of them. The guy says it's true. He asked Dex to go to bed early. Everyone went to bed at night. After a while, Masatsugu woke up. He realized that it was already the middle of the night. He usually never gets nervous, but this time it's different. The guy looks at the sleeping pupils and smiles. It seems to him that the girls treat the battle much easier than he does. The guy turns his head and notices that Lucy is not in the tent. He wonders what the girl's thinking. Lucy looked at the stars alone. Masatsugu wondered what the girl was thinking. Masatsugu approaches the girl and asks if she really can't sleep. Lucy turns to Masatsugu and looks at him sheepishly. Masatsugu asks why the girl looked at him like that. He wonders if the girl thinks he's a monster. Lucy says that's not the point. They just stand there in silence for a while. Then Lucy looks at the owner and asks why he is not sleeping. She says that when they first met, she thought the guy was a cold and manipulative person. The guy begins to explain the reason for his behavior. But Lucy interrupts him and says she was wrong. Masatsugu asks what it means. The girl blushes and smiles. She says Masatsugu takes care of them. She assumes that their master will never admit it. Lucy asks if she and the girls are really giving the guy trouble. She says Masatsugu will complain, but she is confident that he will do whatever is in their best interests. Masatsugu says that the girl is mistaken. He claims that taking care of them is nothing but child's play. Masatsugu says he's just pretending he has to. He says he doesn't need gratitude. Lucy smiles and says Masatsugu is right. They are silent again for a while, until Lucy begins to talk about what she really thought about her homeland. Masatsugu asks why the girl was thinking about her homeland. The girl tells that her homeland is the small town of Karen, located in the north. in the kingdom of Vardzim. Lucy says that this place has the same view as there. She talks about how she really enjoyed being there and looking at the beautiful view of the moon. She remembers asking her parents to take her there. Lucy closes her eyes and says it's been a long time, and when she thinks she's going to forget about it, she remembers it again. In this case, Masatsugu decides to apologize for interrupting the girl. Lucy says it's okay. She claims that, on the contrary, she's glad that she met Masatsugu. The girl blushes and says she was very lonely and wanted to cry. But now that Masatsugu was standing next to her, all the bad feelings were gone. The girl grabs Masatsugu by the apron and says that he is a wonderful person. She claims that she gathers courage when she looks at her master. Masatsugu is struck by the girl's frankness. Lucy moves a few centimeters away from the guy and says that's why she thought she should have thanked him if he didn't mind. The girl turns her head sharply and looks at the guy seriously. Masatsugu wonders what's going on with Lucy. The girl blushes and gets confused in her words. She says that if the guy doesn't mind, then she would like to repay his kindness. The girl offers her body. Masatsugu looks at the girl unimpressed and first asks what it means. And then he says that he understood everything. He says it's a good idea. The girl looks at the guy in amazement. Lucy asks if Masatsugu is sure and if he doesn't mind. The guy smiles and says he's looking forward to it. Lucy smiles and covers her cheeks with her hands to hide her blush. She couldn't believe that the guy was looking forward to it. She sees Masatsugu smiling and chuckling. The guy at this moment assumes that the girl does not know that he is enjoying the trip. Lucy freezes and asks what it means. She looks at the guy in disbelief. The guy clarifies what he says about Lucy Karen's trip to her homeland. Masatsugu says he always enjoys traveling, as long as it doesn't require too much money. That's why he was looking forward to it. The guy looks at the girl and asks what happened. He assumes that she is sleepy. Lucy suggests that they should visit her parents first. She says she has to tell them about the wonderful man who takes care of her. The guy asks if the guy is talking about graves. He says he will go with her. He claims that he likes to change the environment. He wonders if the girl will be his guide. In the morning, everyone gathered on the ledge. They were watching the battle unfold. Lucy notices an army of goblins in the distance and reports that they are approaching. Aaron looks dumbfounded at the goblins and asks if this is really a procession of goblins. Lucy confirms this. Masatsugu looks at his students and assumes that they are nervous. He had expected this. The guy decides to see what's going on with the alliance. Masatsugu wonders if they really plan to stop the goblins before they get to the wall. The guy grins at the fact that the walls were a few centimeters behind them. Aaron points her hand forward and informs Masatsugu that the goblins have stopped. Masatsugu watches as the goblin army stops at one point. At that moment, he thought that the Goblin King must be giving orders somewhere nearby. Masatsugu is happy that the Alliance will play the role of bait without any problems. But when he thinks about it, he reflects that he doesn't just keep his students under his care. The guy understands that this also concerns him. He remembers how he was called into this world. He remembers that something directed him to the shelter of the moon at that moment, so that he would stop this catastrophe. Then the guy stops thinking about it. He turns to the girls and asks if they know what to do. Aaron says confidently that she knows how to act. Lucy says she practiced about 100 times, so she was confident in her abilities too. Shi-chan smiles and says he will do his best to save Masatsugu and everyone else. Masatsugu smiles and says it's their time to move out and act. They all join forces for the mission. Masatsugu is going to explain the plan before the goblins arrive. At this point, Lucy says that she is a beastman, so she should be able to fight. Aaron looks at the guy seriously and says that she really doesn't have any combat experience, but she should have had the guts. Shi-chan closes her eyes tightly and says that she can help but support, at the same time claims that she will not be able to cause damage. Masatsugu looks at the girls and assumes that they have misunderstood everything. He says they don't need to fight. Shi-chan asks what she should do in that case. She suddenly hugs Masatsugu and says she will keep an eye on him. Masatsugu responds by saying that he can easily feed her to the goblins. Shibelshin shakes the guy by the shoulder and tells him to think about what he's saying because she's scared. The guy at this moment says that she will provide logistical support. Masatsugu claims that Erine does not show her talent. He says she can help them handle the logistics of the operation. The girl blushes, chuckles, and says she will be a logistics coordinator. Masatsugu looks at the girl seriously and asks if they understood everything. He says that as long as they carry out the plan correctly, they won't have any difficulties. Masatsugu begins to explain their actions during the battle. Shichin blushes and smiles. She says their squad is ready. She asks Masatsugu to look at her and begins to show her magical abilities. Eren looks at the girl and says she will use a spell to enhance the magic. Masatsugu looks at Shi-chan and thinks that he has never seen such charms before. He is glad that the girl has begun to understand that they are in a critical situation. He didn't like her fooling around. Shi-chan calls for rain. Water appears around her. Masatsugu looks at the girl in disbelief. Shi-chan casts a funny spell. At that moment, the guy pulls out his sword and looks gloomily at the girl. He says he's going to feed her to the goblins. Eren tries to stop the guy. Eren blushes and shouts to the guy that Shi-chan's magic is currently being perfected. She assures him that Shi-chan uses powerful magic. Masatsugu knew that it was true. He noticed that singing the song was so difficult that even he himself, who knew how to use magic, could not understand. Text, tonality, and movement. Shi-chan had them in perfect harmony with each other. Masatsugu glares at the girl and thinks that she looks like a clown. Eren continues to look at the girl admiringly. Clouds appear in the sky. It starts to rain. Shi-chan points his finger down at the goblins and it starts raining right on them. The goblins start getting angry, and Shi-chan is saying that they might be a little hot. The guy tries to stop the girl. He turns to her and reminds her that he asked her to pour hot water all around. But he didn't talk about controlling the weather to make the rain hot. Shi-chan was confused at first, and then asked if the guy really asked for it. The girl didn't quite understand the instructions. Masatsugu felt that this would not affect the result. But he knew that hot water production and weather management were two completely different things. Masatsugu looks gloomily at the girl and says that she really is the goddess of water. The girl confirms this. Masatsugu says that he is sorry for everything that happened. He decides to treat her with respect. Shi-chan looks at the guy admiringly and covers his mouth with his hands. She asks if the guy will really treat her with respect now. Masatsugu smiles and says that from now on he will call her the Boiler. The girl is outraged because the guy promised to treat her with respect, and now he calls her a terrible name. Lucy attracts the owner's attention and says that the goblins are moving forward. The goblins didn't understand why it was raining. One of them ordered to protect the king. They thought that people had started attacking them. The goblins gathered in order to protect the king. They all ran very fast to the king. Eren looks at Masatsugu with a smile and says that his plan is working. The guy says they can find the king now. Masatsugu smiled and decided that it was time to move on to the next step. He gives a command to Lucy. The girl closes her eyes and says she can handle it. She inhaled the air and reported that there were about 100 goblins. She exhaled. At that moment, the girl decided to look in order to find another smell through the same type of smells during the exclusion process. She understood that this way she would be able to find the king among the crowd of goblins. Suddenly, the girl shouts out that she was able to find the king. She points her hand at where the goblin king is. She claimed that it was black. The black goblin turns around and grins maliciously. Masatsugu looks at him and thinks that the goblin blended in well with the others, but his huge size was still noticeable. The goblin looks directly at Masatsugu and grins slyly. The guy at this moment does not understand how the goblin could sense his presence. Masatsugu looks at the goblin with a smile and thinks that he is not the only one who is good at detection. The guy turns around and addresses Eren. The girl says it's time to take a closer look at her magic. Masatsugu begins to soar. He examines his body. Then he turns around as Lucy is calling him. The girl doesn't think their master will lose, but she asks him to come back safe and sound anyway. She wants to say something else, but stops when Masatsugu pats her on the head. He asks her not to waste her time on this. The girl tries to say something else, but Masatsugu interrupts her again and says that it's not a problem because the goblins taught him how to pull the trigger of his defense skill. Eren turns to Masatsugu and asks if he can do it. The guy turns around and says that it's okay to act. Eren screams that she will send him to the Goblin King with her magic. The girl points her arms towards the guy and lifts him up. Masatsugu examines himself and notices that he's shining. The guy also notices that he can now jump straight to the Goblin King. Eren looks at the guy and blushes, crying out. The guy turns around and asks what happened. The guy asks what the girl is saying. What he says is that she can't be heard because it's too windy. Masatsugu assumes that she is giving some kind of pep talk before the fight. The guy closes his eyes and grins. He thinks that the girl will say some kind of approving words. The guy lunges forward, pulling his sword out of its scabbard, and asks the girls not to worry about him. Masatsugu smiles and thinks that he definitely won't lose. At this moment, the girls cover themselves with their hands from the dust caused by a strong gust of wind. Erin looks at the place where the guy was and realizes that he's gone. She's saying something I don't understand. Lucy comes up to her and asks what happened. The girl points out that the guy's pants are torn. All the girls stare in surprise. Masatsugu's strategy began to take effect. The dark-haired guy at this moment asks what is happening on the field. He is informed the goblins have stopped. The dark-haired guy hums thoughtfully and then assumes that they are afraid of heroes from another world. The guildmaster was trying to stop the heroes. He asked them not to do anything rash. He was asked not to worry about it. The man got angry and asked if they knew who he was. The dark-haired guy smiles broadly and says it's time for his grand debut. At this time, the Goblin King stood in place and surveyed the situation. One of the goblins asked him what he would say. The Goblin King opened his eyes wide as he noticed something unusual in the sky. He ordered everyone to lie down on the ground. Masatsugu flew into their army. All the goblins fell to the ground, and the Goblin King was covered by a stone slab. The goblin got up and walked over to Masatsugu. He realized that it was he who had defeated part of his army. The Goblin King asks how the guy dares to treat his kind like that. He calls the guy arrogant. Masatsugu gets up and walks over to the Goblin King. He smiles and says that all the interference has been eliminated. He demands that the Goblin King fight him one-on-one. The Goblin King looks at the guy with a grin on his face and says that he shouldn't be so cocky. The goblin takes his hammer and speaks negatively about Masatsugu, calling him weak. He claims that the guy is not his equal. The Goblin King raises his hammer and says that he is the king of terror and fear. He's not going to forgive the guy for what he did. Masatsugu watches as the Goblin King swings his hammer and screams threats. He strikes, which causes the earth to collapse. A strong gust of wind raises dust, which blocks the view of the girls. The Goblin King turns around smiling and says that Masatsugu is just an ordinary person. He says he's ashamed to fight an opponent like him. Masatsugu, being under the hammer, says that the Goblin King is right. He thinks it's a pathetic little thing, too. The Goblin King looks at the guy in surprise as he gets up and says that it was unexpected. Masatsugu holds the hammer with his finger and says that the Goblin King forced him to use one finger. The guy picks up the hammer and asks if this is really all the Goblin King can do. The Goblin King asks why the guy doesn't attack him. Masatsugu looks at him gloomily and tells him that he often wondered how strong the Goblin King was. The guy swings the hammer away with one finger. The Goblin King asks how Masatsugu dares to behave like this. He claims that the guy will regret it. Masatsugu interrupts the Goblin King and says he has to defend himself. The Goblin King looks at him in surprise. Masatsugu stabs the Goblin King. Then he jumps up and gives him a kick. The Goblin King flies off and crashes into a stone with his back. Masatsugu raises his head and says that whoever contacts the moon shelter will just get off like that. The guy walks up to the Goblin King and says they're done with him. The guy sees that the goblin is smiling slyly. He bounces off it. The goblin holds out his hand and asks the higher being to grant him power. Masatsugu doesn't understand who the goblin is talking to. He had a bad feeling about it. The goblin opens his eyes wide. At this moment, a black cloud appears directly above Masatsugu, which directs a beam directly at the Goblin King. Dust rises and Masatsugu can't see anything. The Goblin King stands up and says that the spell is great. He rejoices that he's gained a powerful force. Then he starts coughing and mumbling. Masatsugu just watched as the Goblin King transformed into a huge and terrifying monster. A huge monster appears right in front of Masatsugu, who notices one of the goblins, opens his mouth wide, and runs towards him. Masatsugu looks at the monster with disgust and is surprised that he did not even recognize his kindred. The monster turns to Masatsugu and speaks negatively about him. Masatsugu asks if the monster Goblin King has really forgotten about his pride. The monster screams that he will defeat Masatsugu and starts running towards him. He tries to stab the guy, but Masatsugu manages to jump away. Masatsugu looks at the monster and realizes that each of its tentacles is moving separately. The monster roars again and tries to stab Masatsugu. The guy runs, but at some point he stumbles and falls. The guy gets up, looks at the monster, and wonders what he should do now. The monster opens its mouth and says that this is the end of Masatsugu. Masatsugu had never thought that he was a monster who would fall for such a simple trick. Masatsugu jumps up. The monster grunts questioningly and then widens its eyes in surprise. The guy jumps away from the monster and says that his actions are too obvious. He claims that the monster can't even control its own limbs. The monster's limbs begin to eat him. He's growling and kicking, and Masatsugu is watching him the whole time. Masatsugu thought that even tentacles could fight each other. He says this is the end of the Goblin King. The guy speaks negatively about the monster. Masatsugu looks at the Goblin King with disdain and asks if he really can't even give up. He wonders if his sinister magic is prolonging his life. The monster continues to roar and scream. Masatsugu at this point asks why he can't give up after straying from the path of kingship. He thinks it's a curse, so he decides to help the monster. The guy pulls the sword out of the scabbard and says the Goblin King is the first one who could make him take the sword. The guy puts the sword in front of him and thinks that it is not enough to restrain all his forces. The guy decides that it will be enough for him if he finishes everything with one blow. The guy jumps up and is about to stab the goblin. At this moment, the Goblin King looks at the guy and wonders who he really is. The guy notices that the Demon King has apparently regained consciousness. One of the tentacles manages to swing. Masatsugu dodges. The guy at this moment remembers that he has already mentioned that he is the manager of the orphanage. The monster assumes that the guy is joking. He can't believe that the orphanage manager defeated him. Masatsugu says at this point that he would not have been able to defeat him if he had not been the shelter's manager. The guy says that his ability is the ability to protect his family. When he tries to protect orphan children, it gives him unlimited power. The guy stabs the Goblin King and says that if anyone bothers the orphanage, he will destroy it. The guy lands a few more punches, and the monster eventually flies away. The guy looks around and realizes that he has forgotten about the mountain behind him. The terrain has changed a lot. Masatsugu assumes that the Goblin army and the kingdom are still fighting. He looks towards the kingdom. At this time, the dark-haired guy was shouting that people weren't afraid to fight goblins. At that moment, the goblins looked at him. The guy got scared and started trying to scare him. The goblins ran towards the guy and started attacking him. He screamed. The girl manages to cover the guy. She asks if he's okay. The guy at this moment asks how the goblin dared to touch him. The guy smiles and says that the girl should not worry, since he is the bearer of the holy sword. The guy swung his sword and accidentally stabbed one of the goblins. The goblin fell to the ground. He looks at the goblin and says it wasn't easy. The girl turns to the guy and says that there are too many goblins. The guy is trying to calm everyone down. He claims that they were able to reduce the number of goblins, so now they need to find the Goblin King. The guy points to a full goblin and says that he is the Goblin King. He claims that his aura is different from others. The others are trying to support the guy. The guy pulls out a sword and says that the goblin should prepare as he is going to defeat him. Masatsugu was watching everything that was happening. He assumes that Miyamoto is at least trying to restore order. The guy thinks that saving the country was just a combination of circumstances. He notices that the Goblin King's body is disappearing. He's happy because he doesn't want to attract too much attention. The guy decided that he should go back to the girls. He was glad that his battle to protect the orphanage had ended without too much attention. Now they were all going to go home. Lucy and Masatsugu went to the market. The girl ran forward. Suddenly, she turned around and called Masatsugu. She says that potatoes have become cheaper. Masatsugu says that in this case they need to buy more potatoes. Masatsugu then wonders if it would be cheaper to grow potatoes in their garden. He thinks that then they will be able to use potatoes as seeds. While Masatsugu is buying potatoes, Lucy sees children running past them, shouting that a hero is coming. Masatsugu and Lucy raise their heads. The girl asks what Miyamoto is doing in this place. A huge number of people gathered who rejoiced at the arrival of the hero. A guy rode by on a horse and waved to everyone. Everyone thanked him for saving him. Miyamoto was happy. Masatsugu thought that he would easily arrange a grand parade. but he was curious what the Goblin King and the Rapid Goblin would say about this man. 465. Masatsugu heard one of the villagers say that the power of their hero wielding their weapons was undoubtedly unfathomable. The second resident had heard that he had defeated the Goblin King with a single blow. A resident asked his friend if he was talking about how Miyamoto hit the Goblin King right near the gate. He had heard that the hero had staged an amazing spectacle. Lucy suddenly blushes and screams that this is not true. She says that the Goblin King was defeated by Masatsugu in the Neria Valley. The residents turn around and ask what it means. They're interested in who the girl is. Masatsugu takes Lucy's hand and leads her away. He says they need to leave. The girl tries to stop him, but nothing happens. She turns around and then turns back to the guy and looks at him. When Masatsugu and Lucy reach the forest, the guy demands that the girl not say rash things. Lucy blushes and is indignant. She asks why the guy doesn't want to tell the truth. She says that if the guy doesn't do it, then the fake heroes will take away his merits. The girl looks down and remembers that Doran told her that if she tells the truth, their terrible attitude towards them will change. Masatsugu, without turning around, says it's a waste of fame. He says that a girl can do as she wants. He doesn't want to be a hero. Then he adds that he would like to live a peaceful life. The girl stops and looks at the guy. She turns to him, but the guy interrupts her and says he wants to finish the paper sample by the end of the day. The girl smiles and agrees with the guy. Lucy runs up to the guy and says that she is sure that Aaron will be there on time. The girl and Masatsugu stop when the girl speaks to them. The guy recognizes Ruby immediately. The girl makes a bow. The guy at that moment asks if she came to recruit her into the guild. Ruby smiles and convinces the guy that she didn't come for this at all. She says she'll come back if she has time. The girl mentions that Doran told her that they would never let the hero of their country go unnoticed. She says her stubborn father admires Masatsugu. The girl says she admires him too. The girl says she admires him too. The guy says the girl is terrible. The guy turns around and asks the girl to just go home. He says he's fully engaged in running the shelter. He says that if the girl interferes, he won't be soft on her. The girl smiles and is amazed that Masatsugu is not going to give up so easily. She says she won't back down either. The guild isn't going to back down either. The guy swears. The girl mentions the battle against the Goblin King. She says that all the guild leaders were watching the battle with their distant gaze skill. The guy thought that the battle was over without witnesses. Ruby sighs and says that the guy easily defeated the Goblin King. She also believes that he has enough magical power to destroy a magic sword. The guy thought he could keep a low profile, but he turned out to be stupid. The guy is swearing because of this. Ruben hugs Lucy and asks if she has anything to say. The girl chuckles questioningly. Lucy asks the owner to stay with them. Masatsugu says he has nowhere to go. Ruby says that's exactly what she expected from Lucy. Lucy asks the guy to be more patient. She says they shouldn't rush it. The guy says he doesn't care how many more times Ruby comes to them. He asks her to leave. Ruby says she likes the guy's demeanor. Ruby leaves, and Lucy waves goodbye to her and says that she will be waiting for her. Masatsugu sighs heavily and says that the girl has tired him very much. Erin returns and informs me that she came back with paper samples after a long time. Lucy says she went to the market this morning to buy some. Erin was asleep at the time. The girl hesitantly asks if it's important. Erin shows the paper samples she made herself. She says that most of them tear easily or are so fragile that you can't write on them. Masatsugu examines the paper and realizes that it is of terrible quality. The guy realizes that he can still write on it. The paper was made from weeds from the garden, so even a child could make it. Erin blushes when Masatsugu says that this paper has minimal functions. He informs her that she has passed. The girl is happy. Lucy says it's wonderful. The girl says that this is the first time that a book available only to the royal family is available to commoners. Masatsugu says they will sell books under the name of the Moon Shelter. The guy reports that this is the second product. Suddenly, everyone hears a sound. Masatsugu, Erin, and Lucy go to where it came from. They see Shi-chan. The girl smiled at everyone and wished them a good morning. The guy asks what happened. Shi-chan says she practiced her magic. A guy asks a girl to practice outside. The girl says she won't be able to set aside time for a tea party. The guy gets angry. He asks if this means that the girl ate everything. She says it's true. The girl is also starting to get mad at Shi-chan. At this moment, a girl comes into the shelter, who is looking for Masatsugu in order to put him under arrest. The girl demands to know if there is anyone here named Naomi Masatsugu. Naomi Masatsugu stands calmly at the door and, folding her arms in a cross, says that she is trespassing on someone else's property. Shouldn't she have said something before that? There's an awkward silence, and the girl understands what's going on. She says he's right then, to Naomi Masatsugu's surprise, bows to him and says she's very sorry. Naomi Masatsugu sighs and doesn't understand what's wrong with her at all. He notices her badge and wonders if she's the kingdom's child protection inspector. Suddenly, she points the blade of the sword at his face and says that it's definitely Naomi Masatsugu. She screams that he is suspected of child abuse, so let him surrender without resistance. Naomi Masatsugu doesn't understand what this woman is talking about at all. She is outraged and screams even more. Who did he call a woman? She has a wonderful name. Eustacia Ramel. Naomi Masatsugu tells her right to her face that she is a hot-tempered woman. She screams in rage that she told him that she is not a woman. Her name is Eustacia Ramel. Let him say her name with her. Naomi Masatsugu sighs and asks her to keep her distance. Then a girl comes in, squeezes between them, and says they're both too close, which pushes Eustacia away. Naomi Masatsugu wonders if she really thought he would fight her. He's not hot-tempered enough to attack her out of the blue. He doesn't think they can continue in the same spirit. He addresses Eustacia as a woman and tells her to go back to where she came from, and then he will call her by her first name. She pulls back another step and says that's right. The girls look at her with interest. Naomi Masatsugu is generally perplexed. Eustacia Ramel says that the fact that he mentions her name will be proof that he recognized her justice. Naomi Masatsugu calls it nonsense. One girl asks if he didn't call him by his first name at first, if there's any reason for this. The other girl tells her that, in her opinion, she is the same as the others. Naomi Masatsugu addresses Eustacia by name and asks if she really decided to play a prank on them. She replies that she doesn't do such things. They stand and keep secrets. She points the sword at him again and shouts that he is suspected of child abuse. He will be taken into custody and the orphans will be placed in orphanages and foster homes. Naomi Masatsugu says he doesn't know what laws apply in this country, but he's not going to confess to a crime he didn't commit. He wonders if she can't talk without drawing her sword. She keeps screaming, so he'll just keep pretending to be innocent. Naomi Masatsugu asks what evidence they have that they immediately classify him as a criminal. The girls are slowly getting together. Eustacia Ramel replies that they have evidence from an informant. To be precise, they received information that His Excellency Prime Minister Fortissimo personally came to the castle and asked the authorities to take action. Naomi Masatsugu wonders if an orphanage right out of the castle shouldn't worry those at the very top. He doesn't understand why they're interested. Eustacia Ramel says that according to the information, he did something out of line with these three. Naomi Masatsugu's face contorts in disbelief. He repeats her words. Did he really do something to these people? Eustacia Ramel confirms this. Naomi Masatsugu asks if she really thinks that what he is saying is nonsense. The girls stick up for him. One screams that the owner never touched them, even when they slept in the same bed with him. He is a gentleman. Horrified, Eustacia Ramel asks if they are really sleeping in the same bed. Naomi Masatsugu immediately shouts that there is a reason for this. The other girls reassure Eustacia and say that there is a reason for this. Masatsugu just cares about them. She doubts if this is true. One says she can't sleep without. What can she do, since he took her most precious thing, namely, a knife for self-defense? Eustacia Ramel immediately asks if he took something important from her, and he shouts that she misunderstood everything. Shia says she doesn't think Makun would do something like that. They only talked about how they wanted to have 10 children, and they even tried something with him, namely, choosing their names. Eustacia Ramel asks if it's really 10. Naomi Masatsugu screams that she completely misunderstood. Eustacia Ramel turns to Shia and says that they are about the same age, so she can understand why she is interested in a relationship. But she is planning a big family. She tells her that more is better. Naomi Masatsugu aggressively tells Shia that if she says anything else that ruins his reputation, she will not get away with it. He is in no way going to have a relationship with this self-proclaimed goddess of poverty. Shia screams with tears. What a horror. They didn't come up with so many names for their children. He shouts that it wasn't them, but she made it up herself. Naomi Masatsugu is already talking calmly, sighing that this story can't be true. It's too stupid to believe in such a thing. Eustacia Ramel says that this situation has made her even more suspicious. She says he's right. It's like saying anything without proven evidence. Naomi Masatsugu asks her to just say what's on her mind. Eustacia Ramel adjusts her glasses and says that she herself will stay at the Luna shelter to see the truth with her own eyes. Naomi Masatsugu, perplexed, asks what she's talking about. Shia asks if she will stay at their shelter. She replies that yes, she will keep an eye on him all the time to make sure that he does not do anything strange with them. She shakes hands with the girls and tells them not to worry. One says it's great that she's staying, but if she's going to sleep here, she'll prepare a room for her. Eustacia Ramel says how wonderful they are, and then thanks them. Naomi Masatsugu says he didn't give permission. Erin says she thinks she should see it with her own eyes. The other agrees and says that his suspicions will quickly dissipate, because he's still a bum. He wonders if he's really a bum. Naomi Masatsugu keeps thinking that she has no idea how annoying this is for him. In the end, he just agrees. Eustacia Ramel is happy. Naomi Masatsugu shouts that there are rules here. If she doesn't follow them, she will have to leave this place. Eustacia Ramel turns to him, offended, and asks him to repeat himself. Naomi Masatsugu says breakfast is at 7:30. Just let her try to oversleep. They have lunch at 1 p.m., a snack at 3 p.m., and dinner at 6 p.m., and stock at 3 p.m., so don't forget to come to the dining room on time, because eating 3 meals a day is the key to health. He says that no one will get up from the table until the dishes are washed. They go to bed at 21:21 at the latest, otherwise she won't grow up. Eustacia Ramel smiles awkwardly. Naomi Masatsugu asks if he said something funny. He tells her not to worry, after all. He will cook the food. It doesn't matter if he cooks for 4 or 5 girls. She stays in place. Naomi Masatsugu asks the girl to show her everything. Eustacia Ramel wants to say something. Naomi Masatsugu asks what it is about. She covers her mouth and says nothing. She smiles and blushes, after which she says that everything is fine. Now she will be under his care. Naomi Masatsugu looks surprised and perplexed while the girl calls Eustacia to show her the room. Naomi Masatsugu thinks he's kind of relieved. He'll never get rich living here after all. He doesn't have a job. He wonders how long it took high society people to disrupt such a poor lifestyle. He sighs. The girls go on a tour of the house. Eustacia Ramel screams that he is not only committing crimes against children, but also fraud. She holds a cup and shouts that serving people such dirty water is just robbery, in her opinion. Naomi Masatsugu tells her not to ruin his reputation. It's a drink from his country called coffee. She sniffs it and says it definitely smells good. Naomi Masatsugu reflects that. More precisely, these are toasted coffee beans that they found in the mountains. Probably everything is in order. Eustacia Ramel asks, however, to let her check whether it is safe to drink it or not. Naomi Masatsugu agrees and tells her to help herself. He thought she would be angry, but she is unexpectedly calm. Shia says that, in her opinion, the master is simply overjoyed that she is ready to sacrifice her life by testing the poison of this drink. Naomi Masatsugu screams that it's not for that reason. Naomi Masatsugu says that as punishment for giving people the wrong impression of him, tonight's dinner will be mostly vegetables. Perplexed, Shay asks how extra vegetables for dinner can be a punishment. Naomi Masatsugu says, anyway, if she's going to try a drink, then let her drink it already. He doesn't want to be late on the day when they present a new product in their store. Eustacia Ramel agrees. She holds out the cup and shouts at everyone to look at it carefully. If her health deteriorates greatly after she drinks it, selling coffee is out of the question. She drinks it and then spits it all on Naomi Masatsugu's face. Shia screams that he is hot, calling her stupid. She awkwardly apologizes to the master. They wipe his face, and Naomi Masatsugu says, to think that someone would try to drink something they've never tasted before in one big gulp. Eustacia Ramel says she didn't think it would be bitter. The girl tells Makun that she has finished wiping his face. It would be terrible if he got burned, so let him rest. His little sister will let him lie on his lap. Naomi Masatsugu ignores her and asks the others what they think about the coffee. One says it has an unusual taste, but she likes it. Shia says she likes it too. It's easy to drink, and the aftertaste is pleasant. Eustacia Ramel asks if they feel worse or something else. Shia replies that they are absolutely healthy, which is expected from the master. Another woman supports her and says that he may be acting like this, but he's not bad at all when it comes to cooking. Naomi Masatsugu tells them not to relax and not to drink too much, otherwise they won't be able to sleep. The three of them yawn and obey. Eustacia Ramel excitedly asks him if he is burned. Naomi Masatsugu tells her that nothing like that happened. Eustacia Ramel bows to him and says that she is very sorry anyway. Naomi Masatsugu asks her to stop exaggerating. Eustacia Ramel asks if he is angry. Eustacia Ramel asks if he is angry. He replies that he is not. She did not do it on purpose, but she will be punished for wasting food. Eustacia Ramel stands awkwardly. Naomi Masatsugu moves on to more important things. Today is the day they present a new product in their cafe. He suggests starting preparations right now. They all prepare together. Naomi Masatsugu looks at it and says that it's great. For a table made of planks that they had at hand, it's quite good. The girls come to him and tell him that they have finished changing clothes. They're all in maid costumes standing in front of him. Shia says these clothes are so cute, the opportunity to work in such clothes is like a dream. Naomi Masatsugu says he got the idea from the aprons they made earlier. The girls reply that they didn't even know about it. Erin says with embarrassment that it doesn't fit her at all. These dress like clothes. Shia says admiringly that this is not true. She asks Naomi Masatsugu if Erin isn't cute. He replies that, of course. After all, the dress was made by him. It should fit her properly. Erin says with embarrassment that he has never called her cute before and did not want to hug her tightly. Naomi Masatsugu indignantly says that they girls like to exaggerate everything so much. Naomi Masatsugu turns to the third and asks, among other things, how it happened that her clothes show much more than he thought. She makes excuses about her waistline. She says she thought it would be easier to charm him with her beautiful figure in this way, so. Naomi Masatsugu says she was tight in the stomach area and cut off her dress. He says she will really turn into an animal one day. She understands that. She screams that this will not happen. Eustacia Ramel comes out in a closed dress and asks if she really needs to be dressed like that too. Naomi Masatsugu smiles and says that if she doesn't like it, then she can just stay at the shelter. If she has such an attitude towards customer service, she will just get in the way. She says she will try not to do it. She points her finger at him and shouts that since there is a possibility that he is giving the children too much stress, they will also live together. It will be bad if she does not do anything to help. She says with a sly face that, of course, she will show the best behavior with clients. Naomi Masatsugu suspiciously asks if she's going to kill them. He asks her if she could smile more naturally, as she did before. It was even better when she wasn't smiling. She blushes and asks if it's really true. She starts saying that such cute clothes don't suit her. He calls her stupid because those words fit him better, and no one would say anything like that to a girl like her. She agrees. Eustacia Ramel tells Naomi Masatsugu that his apron fits just amazing. It was unexpected for Naomi Masatsugu. All the girls completely agree with her. Naomi Masatsugu says that's not the point. Things are already late with the preparations, so they should be ready now. Eustacia Ramel agrees. The girls are getting ready, putting themselves in order. Naomi Masatsugu says that the first of its kind in this world, Cafe Luna, is opening. In a cafe, a customer says that it is a rather bitter drink, calling him a brother. He adds that it seems to him that he will be able to get used to this taste. He asks again. He seemed to say that he was from another country. Naomi Masatsugu says that this is true. If he remembers correctly, he comes from a country called Ethiopia. Another visitor says it's another country they've never heard of. Naomi Masatsugu says that this is a country beyond the sea, far to the west. The visitor says it must have been a really rare drink back then. Naomi Masatsugu thinks that, to be more precise, he comes from another world. He only calls it a rare drink from abroad in order to gather customers, taking advantage of their sense of scarcity. At this time, Lucy asks the visitor's grandfather if he really found the time to visit them. She smiles from ear to ear and tells him that she can't, but thanks him. Other men say that Aaron is in a different place and not as usual. Another asks about a new product. He will order 100 cups if it helps her. Aaron is outraged that these guys have come again. She said they were scaring her and that they shouldn't come back, just have one cup and go home. Then they ask if he can have a teapot as a cup. The boy turns to Shia and asks if she is doing a decent job today. She calls them small. Is it possible to call a goddess who is older than them that way? Let them call her Shi-san. They shout that they won't, Shia swears. Naomi Masatsugu has no idea who it is, but as long as they are paying customers, everything is fine. He should add milk for the small ones. Naomi Masatsugu asks Eustacia, when she sees her idol, why she is not working. She stands awkwardly to the side with a tray. She answers him judiciously that it's because no one comes up to her to place an order. Naomi Masatsugu says that, of course, they won't approach her when she looks at everyone so sullenly. He asks what happened to the smile and the treatment. She replies that she had practiced a little earlier, but she had reached her limit. Naomi Masatsugu suggests leaving the discussion of smiling for some other day. He asks why she doesn't approach them herself to pick up their orders. Eustacia Ramel says he's right. She'll do as he suggested. Naomi Masatsugu follows and wonders if everything will be okay. Eustacia Ramel comes to the old man and says with a stony face that she listens to his order. He twitches and says she scared him. Eustacia Ramel says to hurry up and order what he likes best from the position. He awkwardly and in a panic apologizes and asks to bring a new product, coffee. Eustacia Ramel says there was no mistake. He sighs questioningly. She says that she just confirmed that there was no mistake in the way he said it. Her time is limited, so let her clearly explain what he wants. Just yes or no. The old man apologizes. Eustacia Ramel says he doesn't need to apologize. She understood his order. She asks him to wait a bit. She turns abruptly to Naomi Masatsugu. She raises her finger and shouts at Naomi Masatsugu that this man asked for coffee, so let him make it immediately. He abruptly takes her by the hand and takes her away. She does not understand and asks what is it? Is there really a problem? Naomi Masatsugu says that there is no problem. This man has his money. More precisely, he meant that he is their client. Could she talk to him more politely? She says that it should have been enough to understand his intentions. She just talked to him rationally. Naomi Masatsugu asks what she does in general. Is she really interrogating clients? Someone asks not to look down on him. Eustacia Ramel says that it was nothing compared to her interrogation. He, as a typical criminal, cannot bear it. It's like experiencing hellish torments. Naomi Masatsugu screams that she has to perform waiter duties right now. He tells her that he will finish with her later, and then he comes to the old man and says that he deeply apologizes for the terrible rudeness that their waitress showed him. The old man says not to think about it. The old man asks what her name is. Naomi Masatsugu replies that her name is Eustacia Ramel, and that he is really sorry. The old man says admiringly with burning eyes that in fact it was just wonderful. He says it was the first time he faced such overwhelming pressure as a client. The way she talked was excellent. It made him feel an indescribable sensation. He says he will come tomorrow, so he asks to be treated even more harshly. Eustacia Ramel says she will treat him accordingly. Naomi Masatsugu does not understand what is wrong with this world. He believes that there are only stupid people here. The girls come up to him. Naomi Masatsugu sighs and thinks how relieved it is that these two are still behaving with dignity. He sees Lucia and Shia and asks what is wrong with them. They hug him and tell him that Yulia really loves him. Not that she's worried about him or anything like that. Naomi Masatsugu begins to understand what's going on. He had heard that there were people who were weak against caffeine, that it was like relaxation for them. He asks if they really got drunk on coffee. Lucy says that at night when they are in bed, she wants him to touch her ears, and she wants him to say that he really likes that she is here, and that she's with him forever and stuff like that. Erin says she wants to hear something like, that she's his only princess, and when they go to the bathroom together, she wants him to take care of her like a princess. Naomi Masatsugu tells her not to fall asleep right here. The old man looks and says that the orphanage director is scolding little Lucia with an evil look. Naomi Masatsugu is shouting that they misunderstood everything. Eustacia Ramel comes in and asks Naomi Masatsugu if it's appropriate to address clients as you. Naomi Masatsugu doesn't understand why she suddenly regained her sanity. Shia comes and says that Maya must be tired. She thinks that her forms will heal him, so let him lie down. He screams that there's no way. Naomi Masatsugu screams in panic that the store is closing. as the reason she says it's because they're running out of coffee beans. The visitor says that before doing this, he will clearly explain whether he has done anything suspicious with Lucia. The other shouts that it is true. Monopolizing Aaron is beyond the rules. Someone else suggests that she play catch-up when she's done with work. The old man asks Eustacia to scold him even more tomorrow. Everyone leaves. Eustacia Raymond looks on and says there's a chance he can take advantage of the children after they've drunk a strange drink called coffee that made them look like this. She says she's going to have to investigate as thoroughly as possible. Lucy, on Naomi Masatsugu's neck, tries to kiss him, and he asks Eustacia if she can help take them off him. A little later, Lucia says that she feels like she said something terrible earlier, but she completely forgot what it was. Aaron agrees and says that she is too. The last thing she remembers is the store opening. Naomi Masatsugu asks them to forget about it. From now on, they are forbidden to drink coffee. The girls look at him questioningly. He sighs and says that he is very tired anyway. He suggests taking a bath early today. The girls agree. Naomi Masatsugu turns to she and asks if she is going to take a shower too. She says it looks like it's time to say it. She happily says that sis actually found a hot spring here, as expected from the hot tub spirit. According to Masatsugi, people ask her at the hot springs themselves, so that's why she disappeared from time to time. She awkwardly asks Naomi Masatsugu if he's mad, if she did something unnecessary. Naomi Masatsugu reflects that he actually likes to take a bath, and this is a pleasant surprise. He thinks if he had been more open with others, he wouldn't have become an outcast in class. Naomi Masatsugu pats Shia's head, which makes her eyes widen in surprise. Naomi Masatsugu sees her reaction and hopes that he did everything right. Shia screams and jumps for joy. She screams that Makun has finally fallen in love with her. She will never wash her hair again. She shouts at everyone to listen carefully. Let it be known that this day is the day when Makun stroked her. They must tell it to all the gods. They will write it down in history. Naomi Masatsugu calls her bad and asks if she's really trying to embarrass him in front of the whole world. Someone picks it up, clears his throat, and asks for permission to address him. Eustacia Raymond says she would never have thought of such a thing. But are they really going to take a bath together? Naomi Masatsugu replies that they are going to. Is something wrong? Eustacia Raymond bows her head softly and politely, and replies that everything is clear to her. And then he starts yelling that the birds are breaking up, which, of course, something is wrong here. She holds a rope and says it's a crime to take a bath with such young girls. She's going to arrest him right here. Naomi Masatsugu swears, calling her stupid, as if he would do something to these little ones. They themselves said they couldn't wash and asked him. Eustacia Raymond shouts at him not to pretend to be innocent. Naomi Masatsugu shouts back that she is forcing him to say so. He says he's not going to do anything with him, just take a bath and generally how she wants to convict him of a crime. Eustacia Raymond replies that she will go with them. Naomi Masatsugu takes a questioning breath. Eustacia Raymond screams that if she goes with them, she will have a chance to catch him red-handed. And besides, she will be able to protect the children. 2 birds with 1 stone. Eustacia Raymond says that now everyone should go to the spring immediately. She takes off her clothes. Naomi Masatsugu tells her not to do it right there. Inside, Shia easily takes off her clothes while singing. Eustacia Raymond looks at her with embarrassment and says that she looks amazing. She laughs and asks if it's really true. Aaron grubs her and says they are beautiful. Lucy agrees and says she thinks so too. Eustacia Raymond joins the girls and asks Shia how she managed to achieve such a figure. She tells them to listen to her and tells them. At this time, Naomi Masatsugu is enjoying a swim in the hot springs. He loves to take a bath. It benefits both body and spirit. They find him and say, here he is. Naomi Masatsugu turns around and says it's a good place. The girls come in towels and Shia goes into the water and says it's hot. Eustacia Raymond checks and says it's hot, but nevertheless, the temperature here is pleasant. Naomi Masatsugu asks them what they were just talking about, which is why she's so annoyed right now. Eustacia Raymond openly replies that they discussed the size of the molds. Naomi Masatsugu, in shock, asks if he imagined they were just discussing her forms. Eustacia Raymond says that it's not about her, but about she's forms. Naomi Masatsugu screams that he's not talking about that. He doesn't care who they were talking about, why she was talking about it so excitedly. Eustacia Ramel screams that she's not talking about this very thing. In order to feed children, you need to have big shapes. It's completely normal to want to learn this. Naomi Masatsugu asks her what he's talking about. Lucy awkwardly and confusedly says that they just thought he liked big ones too. Erin sulks and says she's not interested. Hypothetically, she doesn't care, but what size does he prefer? Naomi Masatsugu replies that he doesn't care why they're even talking about how big she's shape is. Eustacia Ramel says that everything is obvious. She screams that she confessed that the reason they were so big was because she asked him to fondle them every day for her. Naomi Masatsugu angrily replies, "That's it. Then let him do one thing." He's furious. He tells she that maybe if he tears off this useless fat, then all the nutrients that the brain urgently needs will return to their place. Xia tells him not to be so rude, because he will hurt his little sister. He shouts at her to shut up. He says it doesn't concern him. More importantly, he asks Eustacia how her investigation is progressing. He asks her if she has caught him in criminal things. She replies that the criminal will not allow himself to be caught so easily. She says that the detective's mission is to get to the truth. Naomi Masatsugu wishes her luck in investigating a non-existent crime. Eustacia Ramel replies that this is exactly what she is going to do, so she tells Naomi Masatsugu to fight her in a washing match. There is an awkward silence, after which Naomi Masatsugu tells her that she is overstepping all bounds. She asks him not to be rude to her. She is a detective, so she will not allow him any more crimes. Naomi Masatsugu and Eustacia Ramel are sitting opposite each other. She is lathering a washcloth. Naomi Masatsugu asks if she doesn't think the situation is a bit wrong. Why are they sitting facing each other? Eustacia Ramel says it's a cheap trick. He probably planned to knock her out when she turned her back and do all sorts of crimes with those kids. Naomi Masatsugu asks who she thinks he is. Really a criminal mastermind. He asks her what the essence of this match is, what she is going to do. Naomi Masatsugu says he thinks she just wants to distract him. Eustacia Ramel answers what he thinks, so don't let him interrupt her. She says with a threatening face that in any case, he won't be able to do bad things while she washes him. He asks what will happen if she finds his weak spot. She says that not if, but he will find it for sure. Because he is thinking about something like how he will somehow manage to escape the prying eyes of the best detective of the Valsam Kingdoms. And then he will have fun with the girls. Naomi Masatsugu asks if it's okay that a woman who talks about girls is the best detective in the country. She screams that it's enough nonsense. She offers him a fight. If he can do bad things while she can't see him, then he wins. If she stops him, then she wins. Naomi Masatsugu asks to wait and says that she is the most stupid inspector. He doesn't even have a reason to participate in the match. Why should he be in favor? Eustacia Ramel says it means he's chickened out. Naomi Masatsugu gets angry and asks what she just said. Eustacia Ramel says she's challenging him, and he's going to run with his tail between his legs, which means he's not a man, but a coward. Naomi Masatsugu asks if she really thinks he would be so easily provoked. He grabs a towel and then shouts that she has been provoking him for too long. So he accepts her challenge if she thinks that he, the director of the orphanage for those girls, will run away with his tail between his legs, then she is deeply mistaken, because this is a matter of honor. Eustacia Ramel shouts that this is very good. Then she suggests starting. The stone in her hand breaks, and the bloody harvest begins. Naomi Masatsugu screams that she went so far to provoke him, so he accepts her challenge. In the end, none of them gave up. Erin says that it seems Naomi Masatsugu is quite easy to provoke. Lucia says that she was so eager to offer him to wash the back. Naomi Masatsugu and Eustacia Ramel wash each other. Naomi Masatsugu asks why she immediately aims at a vulnerable spot. Eustacia Ramel says he really doesn't let down his guard. However, no matter what he does, she won't take her eyes off him for a second. She continues his body now. Suddenly, Naomi Masatsugu asks her if she takes care of her hair properly. It looks damaged. She demands that he not distract her with such trifles. Naomi Masatsugu says that they are tough even when they are wet, which indicates that the cuticle is peeling off. Eustacia Ramel says that for some reason it sounds really... She openly says that she spends a lot of time caring for them. He asks if there is anything in her lifestyle that affects her hair too much. She knows her hair can get damaged from overheating if she is exposed to the sun for too long. Eustacia Raymond looks at her hair and says that she certainly walks outside during the day, but she also often sits indoors doing paperwork. Suddenly, she remembers that fire butterflies have been appearing in the neighborhood lately, and she has helped to subdue them many times. She says that this is the most possible reason why cuticles are weak to the effects of heat. She sadly says that this is just not the case. He tells her not to worry because, fortunately, they're only partially damaged. He explains that she cannot just cut her hair and leave everything as it is. She will have to use his specially made remedy on her hair after rinsing it every day. She screams. To think that something like that exists. Naomi Masatsugu says there should be some in the locker room. How about we go get some? She immediately runs away, thanking him and saying that she owes him a favor. Eustacia Raymond asks where this thing is. Naomi Masatsugu asks if she can't find it. She searches and says she really can't find it. Naomi Masatsugu replies that it should be easy. She screams that she can't find him anywhere. Naomi Masatsugu washes her face and splashes a bucket of water on herself and tells her to try again. Let her check all the shells carefully. Eustacia Raymond is looking for it and says it might have been stolen. He replies that he cannot deny this possibility. Naomi Masatsugu is already sitting in the hot springs and says that the water is pleasant and warm. A person should not live only by hard work. You need to relax like that. It's probably not really his style. Just then, Eustacia Raymond comes up from behind and menacingly calls his name. She asks if he dared to deceive her. He clucks and says it means she's already back. She says it's easy to use such a clever trick to distract a confident inspector like her. He says that one way or another, she missed him from her field of vision, which means that he won. Eustacia Raymond screams that it's great. She officially confirms that he skillfully escaped the inspector's gaze and enjoyed the small ones. Naomi Masatsugu says that if she's going to accuse him of such terrible things anyway, then what's the point of his victory? Lucia says she didn't want to get involved because they had an argument, but now it's over. Naomi Masatsugu says that this consideration was completely useless. She apologizes for it. Lucia says she was wondering if he was going to indulge in them a little, but she couldn't bring herself to step in. Naomi Masatsugu tells the other that from now on, he can be as rude to this woman as he pleases. Someone shouts that he has no conscience. Eustacia Raymond says that her sister will worry if he does this. Aaron says he just touched her. If he wants to touch her, he must first get permission. Chia screams that the sister was affected here. Now it's a fact. Naomi Masatsugu doesn't understand why they do this. Eustacia Raymond grins and says it's finally time to arrest him. She pulls out the rope and screams. To think that he was so careless that he touched him right in front of the inspector, in accordance with her, Eustacia Raymond, the judicial decision of the Kingdom of Walsam. She arrests him. Then Lucia screams that her master would never do such a thing. He calls her name, and she wonders if he's finally changed his mind, in which case, this is the chance of her life. She stands up abruptly and tells Naomi Masatsugu to touch wherever he wants. Naomi Masatsugu's already emotionless, telling her to just calm down. Then Aaron screams that it happened again. Shia says at this time it was the legs. Eustacia says that continuing to commit such heinous acts while talking to her is worthy of the death penalty. He screams that it's not like that. He didn't even touch them. Eustacia Raymond asks, in that case, who is the culprit here? Suddenly, Shiyu grabs something. The water is raging. A huge squid comes out of the water in front of them. He gets up, and Eustacia Raymond says it's King Squid 2-2. This is a terrible monster that rules all the oceans of the world, the ancient enemy of all navigators and the king of squid. He appears from the pitch darkness of the abyss, douses people with ink and leaves, which is why he is called a sea simper. Naomi Masatsugu asks if it's not just a squid, doubting her words. The squid swings and attacks Naomi Masatsugu. He realizes that this is bad. Then Eustacia Raymond stands up and uses a comprehensive astral. A weapon appears in Eustacia's hands. She screams that whether it's 10 or 100 tentacles, he will never get past her, who inherited the name Eustacia Raymond. She fights him. Naomi Masatsugu says he thought it was just a sword. Eustacia Raymond turns to him and says that he was wrong. In her family, In the house of Ramel, only the one named Eustacia Ramel is allowed to carry this sword, the sacred shield. Naomi Masatsugu says he's a little confused about whether it's a sword or a shield. Eustacia Ramel says that this is the biggest taboo in the Ramel family, and her aunt will shut down anyone who even mentions it for a week. He says that it seems to be quite difficult. She then says with a smile that in any case she has amazing strength. He expects that with her help she will save Lucia. She replies that it is impossible. Naomi Masatsugu doesn't understand, but Eustacia Ramel explains that she can only use it once a day. She needs to wait one full day before she can use it again. Naomi Masatsugu asks with displeasure if this is really all she has after telling everything so beautifully. Tentacles grab Eren and Shia. Towels fly off them, and Lucia is also captured with them. Shia shouts that Ma-kun saw everything. He saw it all. Lucia says that if it's the master, then she doesn't mind. Eren screams that she doesn't want this. They should have kissed first, and then he had to take her away. Naomi Masatsugu says it's bad. They're under some kind of mental fog. Eustacia Ramel asks if he's sure that's the case. Naomi Masatsugu sees the squid's behavior. He shouts that the next attack is on the way. She must be careful, and then runs away. Eustacia Ramel stays put and wonders what this squid is going to do. The squid spits ink at her. Naomi Masatsugu takes the girls away from the squid. Eustacia Ramel is all black and indignant. How dare he leave her like that? Naomi Masatsugu says with displeasure that he told her it would happen anyway. Didn't everything end well in the end? Eustacia Ramel washes. Eren goes to the locker room. Lucia is in Naomi Masatsugu's arms. Naomi Masatsugu says that squid ink has wonderful properties. It will work wonders with her rough skin and damaged hair. Eustacia Ramel thinks about it and replies that she understands. Naomi Masatsugu says she needs to wash it off anyway. She stinks of fish, and he can't stand it. Eustacia Ramel lashes out at him and screams that he really needs to reflect on himself in a prison cell one night. Naomi Masatsugu tells she not to pay attention to it. Why did she keep such a thing in a hot spring? Shia replies that she didn't, because she wouldn't have thought of holding such a monster. He asks who brought this monster here. Shia adds that there was nothing like this here yesterday. Eustacia Ramel asks if this is not the result of his own carelessness. Since a monster has entered the orphanage, it means that he cannot protect this place. Naomi Masatsugu tells her that he was the one who defeated him. He doesn't care what she thinks. What's more important is that somehow it all smells a little rotten. The royal squid too became lunch for the orphanage. Lucia tells the master that dinner was delicious today, as usual. To think that the squid ink would taste so good, if they thought about all the food they got from it, then the squid's attack was a blessing in disguise. Eustacia Ramel turns to Naomi Masatsugu and says that she wanted to ask something. It's not like he's going to tell her that he sleeps with the kids. Naomi Masatsugu says without emotion that she is going to. Eustacia Ramel yells that even though it should be obvious that he can't sleep together, he says the girls cry and talk an awful lot in their sleep at night. Eustacia Ramel screams that an unmarried girl should not sleep with a man. Naomi Masatsugu smiles and says she's right about something. Eustacia Ramel hugs the girls and says that in this case, from now on, she will sleep with the girls. She takes Lucia and Eren to her place. Shia stays and tells Ma-kun that she will sleep with him tonight. Naomi Masatsugu says that of course, but he will sleep in the bed, and she can sleep outside the door. She asks to at least let her sleep on the floor in the room. Worried, Lucia asks if they won't get in the way. Eustacia Ramel says they can count on her, and you can probably tell by her looks. But she's trained to sleep under any circumstances. She lies down in the middle and tells me to go to her. She takes off her glasses and says she thinks they're tired today. She conceives a candle and thinks that while she is here, she can prevent any crimes before they happen. Suddenly, she wakes up to hear someone crying. She turns around and sees Lucia in tears. She hugs her and tells her that everything is fine. She continues to cry, calling for her mom and dad. She turns around and sees Eren. She says something indistinctly, and Eustacia Ramel holds out her hand and asks if everything is okay. She aggressively shouts at her not to touch her and then directs water magic at her. In the dead of night, Naomi Masatsugu listens to Eustacia's story and asks what happened next. She says she's terribly sorry. She acted selfishly, not knowing the circumstances. Lucia cries and says she was unwell. Aaron smiles awkwardly and says it was dangerous. She almost attacked her point blank with her wind magic. Naomi Masatsugu asks Eustacia if she doesn't think her apology was like saying that, now she understands, she should at least think about doing a dojeza in front of him. Eustacia Ramel bows to the floor and asks if that's how he wants her to do it. He asks to stop. Eustacia Ramel raises her head and says that he was the one who told her that. He doesn't care anymore because he's tired. He tells the girls to get into bed quickly. They have an early workday tomorrow. As a result, all 4 girls are lying in bed with him. He asks with displeasure why the 2 of them are here now. Eustacia Ramel says that this is, of course, in order to protect Aaron and Lucia. She adjusts her glasses. Naomi Masatsugu tells she that he told her to sleep in the hallway. She asks if it's unfair if everyone else is sleeping here. Naomi Masatsugu says she doesn't need to sleep with him, so he just wants her to go back to her room. Eustacia Ramel says that if he says something like that, it means that she is really under his control. Shia says, showing that everything is fine, don't worry. She wants to make love with Naomi Masatsugu. Eustacia Ramel says she understands. She didn't know that because she still doesn't understand the issue. But they say that men and women have different ways of being in a relationship together. Naomi Masatsugu was cursing why she suddenly became so open-minded. Naomi Masatsugu sighs, yawns, and says to just do whatever they want. It's too late. He suggests sleeping. Everyone is sleeping soundly. Naomi Masatsugu asks Lucia that she still can't sleep. He looks at her and sighs. Aaron is sleeping soundly. Lucia smiles broadly and says she just felt too happy, so she couldn't fall asleep. Naomi Masatsugu asks if she's really happy because it's so crowded. He's obviously not happy about it, and Lucia is happy about it. Lucia says she sleeps with Eustacia and she likes it. It feels like she's sleeping with mom and dad again. She apologizes to Naomi Masatsugu and says that it must annoy him that she thinks of him that way. He replies that not really. She should just do whatever she likes, but no matter what she thinks of him, he cannot turn into her father and cannot turn back time. Lucia says she thinks it's true. After that, Masatsugu says that he will take care of her. That's all. Lucia smiles and says that she was really lucky. She was very sad that her parents died, and it was terrible when she was also a servant. That's why she was able to meet him. She asks him if he thinks this is enough to balance the situation. He replies that no, he doesn't think it can make up for all the terrible things that have happened. Lucia says that's probably true, but she also thinks that the fact that she was able to meet him is proof that there is hope in the world, and that's where that hope is. And no matter what happens in the future, it won't go away. Naomi Masatsugu looks at her in surprise, and then tells her that she is like the sun. She looks at him questioningly. Naomi Masatsugu says he told them to sleep already. It would be bad for their business if they couldn't work properly. She immediately lies down and wishes him a good night. He closes his eyes and Eustacia Ramel calls him by name, and he says irritably that she's still awake too. Eustacia Ramel stands up and says that even if he shows her such a beautiful scene, she still can't let him. She sobs so hard that her snot flows and says that it's not that she believes in him, and then abruptly lies down and says that's it. Naomi Masatsugu doesn't understand what she's talking about. Naomi Masatsugu reflects that he would be concerned if she could trust a guy like him even a little. He's just the director here because he was ordered to do this, and initially he wasn't suitable for this job at all. If he wasn't the director, he wouldn't care about them. Probably this will never happen. In the morning, Naomi Masatsugu asks where to do Eustacia Ramel. Lucia says that it seems that she was called by the headquarters, so she left early in the morning. He says it's clear to him, it's good that it's finally quiet, but he wonders what they're going to do with all this squid. Lucia says, how about making it with ginger? Naomi Masatsugu says it's a good idea for a lunchbox. Aaron says she wants to try it. Shia congratulates Eustacia on her return. She comes in sullenly. Shie asks what happened. She abruptly approaches them and hands them the document. She says he has been arrested on suspicion of organizing a coup d'etat against the royal family. Naomi Masatsugu says he knew Eustacia Ramel was stupid, but this is going too far. She should know that he has no plans to overthrow the monarchy. Eustacia Ramel says he's going too far. She wants to bring back the self who cried her heart out last night. They knock with a hammer and tell everyone to be quiet. The court begins its session. First, he asks Inspector Eustacia to voice the charges. She stands up and says that the charge is the grave crime of organizing a coup d'etat. This issue was uncovered when a bona fide third party filed a complaint. Someone says that His Excellency the Prime Minister did not inform him about this. The judge says that they would like to continue the testimony of a wide range of witnesses in order to establish the guilt of the suspect. Naomi Masatsugu says it's practically medieval. He understands that they will not rely on specific evidence, but rather on witness statements and confessions to judge the crime. He remembers learning this in class, but he never thought that he would be able to experience it for himself. The judge asks to show the suspect's lawyer. Naomi Masatsugu looks and wonders if there really is a real lawyer there. He sees his girls coming out of the orphanage. Lucy introduces herself and says that today she had plans to learn how to cook a new dish from the master. She will definitely prove his innocence, and will definitely learn this recipe from him. A happy Aaron introduces herself too, and says that he has never done anything like plotting to overthrow the country. Not for anything, and it would never have occurred to him to do something like that. Shia introduces herself too, and says that she is Ma-kun's younger sister and lover. In order to protect their daily lives, they will stand up for Ma-kun. Naomi Masatsugu looks on without much pleasure, and thinks that he should have guessed. Eustacia Ramel asks the witness to come over, and a girl in a fur coat comes out. Naomi Masatsugu sees and says with displeasure that this is the same goddess Contagion. She says that it's cruel, especially after she found time to come play with Sylphie. Naomi Masatsugu reflects that at first glance one might think that she was a cool lady, but her true nature is the exact opposite. She's a dangerous lady whose specialty is to pick out people's weaknesses and use them to her advantage. Eustacia Ramel says whether the witness will immediately testify about the suspect's daily activities. She replies that yes, that's why she hates serious people. They have such little tricks. Eustacia Ramel is outraged by her behavior. The first witness begins to say that Naomi Masatsugu is a wonderful person. During the recent goblin invasion, he challenged the Goblin King alone and brilliantly defeated him. She says she dares to say that he is the savior of their country. No, their world. Despite this, Naomi Masatsugu is modest and for some reason insists on keeping it a secret. The judge is shocked. She goes on to say that when he talks down to her like that, she just wants him to talk to her forever. He's so rude, but she likes it. As always, true brilliance cannot be understood by ordinary people. The judge tells her that she is completely off course. The witness should stop joking. If she continues, he will order her to be arrested for contempt of court. She comes back and starts talking about his daily activities. He is popular with women. He is approached by a variety of women every day. Naomi Masatsugu says he doesn't think any women approach him. Then Lucia gets up and shouts that she objects. She thinks the master is lying. Naomi Masatsugu, displeased, asks her what happened to his defense. She apologizes. Naomi Masatsugu tells her that she said he was lying, so let her tell them exactly what was wrong. She's shy and says she can't say it in front of so many people. Naomi Masatsugu pushes and says there's no point if she doesn't say it in front of everyone, so let her speak. She begins to blush even more and slurrily says that she is Lucia Oldclane. She loves. The judge tells her to make sure she finishes what she's saying, otherwise it might reflect badly on her defendant, and let her speak clearly. She panics even more and says that no way, she, Lucia, has been in love since the horses first met. Here she shouts that she would love to serve soup every morning. Naomi Masatsugu looks disappointed. He reflects, of course, she worried him a lot to teach her how to cook. She probably thought of it as a woman close to him. After all, she's just a child, so he thinks it's wise. But to think that she would be thinking about the breakfast menu at a time like this, he thinks she's a really responsible girl. Eustacia Ramel says, as they can see, he is a shameless man who has no qualms about playing such a shameful game in public. Just from that, he should be able to tell how inhuman he is. All the witnesses are shouting that this is true. They're asking to protect Lucia, everyone's granddaughter. The judge tells everyone to keep quiet. The first witness says that there is no chest here to carry it on himself. If he continues to communicate with such a stubborn inspector like her, he may just suffocate and die. Eustacia Ramel is even more outraged. The judge tells Eustacia to call the next witness. She apologizes to him for the inappropriate behavior of this witness. She will reflect on how she allowed her to cause such a ruckus and carve shame on her chest. The first witness says, more importantly, she suggests to Naomi Masatsugu that they escape together and embark on a dangerous adventure. Eustacia Ramel tells her to leave immediately. The second witness immediately asks Lucia to give him her slender hand, calling it a sweet, unique flower. Then he turns to Aaron and says that he will take her away from this boring place and lead her to heaven. Aaron screams in disgust that she's not going anywhere with him. He says that he heard from the inspector there that she, her unique flower, was in trouble. Aaron says it's rude. Eustacia Ramel says she thought the one she summoned had the king's trust and the respect of both soldiers and townspeople. It had to be the best swordsman and knight commander, Eric. He says that of course she did, but she forgot to mention the position he is most proud of, being the president of the Aaron Chan fan club. Eustacia Ramel screams at him to throw away this title immediately. He laughs and says it's a joke. She shouts that in any case they are in the midst of a trial. She asks him to testify about the daily activities of the accused. He says he thinks he should, if he thinks about it. He saw him deal with 10 or so hooligans and throw them out into an alley. Eustacia Ramel asks if it is true that he is a violent person. He replies that not at all. He was surrounded by 10 people. Any action would be legitimate self-defense. Rather, as a knight, he would like to try to exchange blows with him. Eustacia Ramel then tells him to just challenge him to a duel or whatever he wants. He immediately says that this is a good idea. He suggests to Naomi Masatsugu to fight as knights for the honor of accompanying Aaron. Naomi Masatsugu replies that he doesn't mind personally, but for now, let them put an end to it. The second witness says that this is the reason why he bothered to come to this trial. Aaron says that's a pretty disgusting definition. Naomi Masatsugu asks him if he doesn't have much choice in a woman. Why focus on this girl who curses him like an evil spirit? The witness replies that that's what he likes about her. The way she honestly expresses her opinion, without caring about status, is a testament to her purity. Besides, she exudes elegance. She has the most wonderful eyes and a charming expression. It wouldn't be strange to mistake her for a goddess. She has shouts that she objects she thinks she is a goddess. The witness says that it's true that women have the qualities of a goddess inside them, and she can also work hard to be called that one day. Shiga screams that she's real. She asks, or rather, when he feels so sorry, it hurts even more. The witness says that this is all he can say about the director, and with that he will take his leave. He needs to take up a fencing lesson. Naomi Masatsugu asks Eustacia if she shouldn't make an advance payment to her witnesses as she wants to prove his guilt. Eustacia Ramel looks at him questioningly and asks when she said she wanted to prove his guilt. She says she only wants to get to the truth. Personally, she thinks he is a spineless, troubled man who is likely to become a criminal. Naomi Masatsugu asks if she's picking a fight. Eustacia Ramel says she wants to say that they will not be able to ensure the fairness of the trial if they resort to manipulating witness testimony. Witnesses must testify as a neutral party. Otherwise, she is afraid that they will give rise to false accusations. Naomi Masatsugu smiles and sighs. She angrily asks if he just giggled. He says no. He just confirmed that she is really a stubborn little fool. She demands that he take back his words. It turns out that the third witness is screaming how long they're going to keep her waiting. She's been through hell because of him. Eustacia Ramel says that the third witness is the self-proclaimed best servant in the world. She screams that she is not self-proclaimed. Suddenly, someone says to stop this ridiculous charade and everyone pays attention to it. A certain woman with a horn says they should just hurry up and execute this eyesore already. The woman turns to the chief judge and says that he should just hurry up and declare him guilty. The judge addresses her, calling her Excellency Prime Minister Mortissimo. Naomi Masatsugu thinks it's Martissimo. He really thought she was a man. The judge says they are still in the middle of the trial and there is no evidence, so it's not much to declare him guilty. Mortissimo asks, so they say they need proof. Naomi Masatsugu sees and realizes that she is not even looking at them. The judge says that's exactly what it is. They will need evidence to convict him. However, according to His Excellency, the suspicion that this man will contribute to the organization of a coup d'etat has no evidence. The judge asks if he really asked for this. Mortissimo says she simply told the people around her to arrest the man and try to have him executed. Mortissimo says that's why she just responded with the most serious crime she could think of. The judge asks if she really claims that Naomi Masatsugu is not suspected of an attempted coup at all. Mortissimo replies that it has absolutely nothing to do with the case. But if he asks if she has any evidence, she doesn't have any. Eustacia Ramel asks if that's really the case, in which case they can't blame this man. She's in shock. Shia screams that it's all thanks to her divine protection. Aaron screams that they're great lawyers, and Lucia is so happy. Naomi Masatsugu says he doesn't think it had anything to do with how they worked as lawyers. Mortissimo thoughtfully asks when this man will be executed. Eustacia Ramel says he won't do it. They can't punish an innocent person. It would be a complete violation of the law. She calls them worms and laughs. She says he seems to have surpassed all the expectations she had for him, which means he has developed some kind of sense of ethics over the past 10,000 years. Naomi Masatsugu tells her to keep her nonsense to herself. Shouldn't she first apologize for dragging an innocent man into this farce of a trial? Mortissimo asks if he really wants her to apologize to him. She calls him a parasite. Aaron shouts at her to stop being rude. Shia screams that she can't just treat people like that, no matter how great she thinks she is. Shia screams that it's the right thing to do. She should at least treat her, not like a low animal. Lucia tells Shia to shut up. Naomi Masatsugu is watching and thinking, so that's why she doesn't look them in the eye. Naomi Masatsugu says he doesn't think this woman hates them or anything like that. Lucia asks if it's rude to call them parasites. Naomi Masatsugu says she really sees bugs in them. The girls ask if it's not the same thing, and Naomi Masatsugu says it's completely different. He just thinks that she really only thinks of them as insects or something. People don't really look down on insects or hold grudges against them. Such emotions are shown only in relation to those whom they consider equal. She sees in them only bugs writhing under her feet. Naomi Masatsugu asks her who she is. Mortissimo turns to him and says he's not asking for a name. Naomi Masatsugu says she knows exactly what he's asking. Eustacia Ramel gets tense and asks what he's talking about. Mortissimo says she would never have thought that there would be an insect that would reveal her true nature. She thinks he is human. Mortissimo approaches him and asks what he said. What is his name? If he will tell her his name. Naomi Masatsugu gives her name and says she should at least remember the names of the people she tried to execute. Mortissimo says that he is absolutely right. She will forgive him. She approaches him and says what a delightful surprise. She says his immature language can't even come close to describing who she is. Stupid people called her the god of death. Everyone is panicking about what it all means. The judge asks you not to joke like that, addressing Her Excellency Prime Minister Mortissimo. Naomi Masatsugu suggests that she just leave the question of what kind of strange creature she is for later. Mortissimo says she doesn't like the way he says it so easily. But he's absolutely right. She giggles and says what a sweet person he is. In addition to seeing through her true nature, he also has guts. But that's exactly why it's going to be so sad. She pulls out a weapon. She says that even though it's been so long since she met someone she thought she could have fun with, the king ordered her to take his life. Naomi Masatsugu says that's how she serves that stupid King Walzam, to think he had such a curious thing. She doesn't understand who he is. Naomi Masatsugu asks in disbelief, then which king? Mortissimo apologizes and says they don't have time. She swings her sword so that everything black envelops the room. Naomi Masatsugu says that what was said about the shelter deal is above all else. As long as he can do it, nothing else will matter. The witnesses fall asleep. Mortissimo says goodbye to Naomi Masatsugu and says that she will love his imprisoned arc for all eternity. The girls cough and gradually fall asleep too. Shie says she can't gather her goddess powers, so she'll take a nap. Naomi Masatsugu removes this dark magic in one fell swoop. Mortissimo says he scattered it, her deadly wind. She's talking about this power. Could it be an origin skill? She didn't think there would be anyone in human form who could handle the origin skill. Naomi Masatsugu asks about the original skill. She only asks not to tell her that he used it without knowing it. Perhaps this is exactly what it means to be connected to the world. Mortissimo says that the god of death now understands that the source of his power is his desire to protect these orphans. She explains that basic skills are, in other words, manifestations of fundamental concepts. and these children must be important to him. He replies that not really, he just has no other choice but to take care of them. He's just doing his job. Mortissimo attacks again and says that in that case, Naomi Masatsugu stops the attack again, preventing the girls from getting their strength. Naomi Masatsugu says that such a weak attack won't work. She smiles and says that she just confirmed it. At this rate, she can neither lose nor win this fight. Hence, she decides to start by erasing the source of his power. His skill is a talent bestowed upon him at birth. But that's why he won't know how to use it if she eliminates the source of his concept. She says she now understands why her king ordered her to deal with the orphanage. It will also help her king's resurrection. Naomi Masatsugu is shocked and asks what she means by that. Mortissimo just silently goes out the window, flies away, and disappears from sight. Already at the shelter, the masters are being asked to do this more strongly. Naomi Masatsugu asks if that's the way to do it. Lucia gets pleasure from Naomi Masatsugu wiping her ears with a towel. She says she is healing. He asks if she's still injured since then, even though he thinks she's healthy enough. She tenses up and screams that she's not lying. It's just that the fact that he's stroking her has some kind of wonderful effect. Naomi Masatsugu reflects to herself that she really becomes more energetic the moment he starts stroking her. He believes that this is also part of the treatment. Lucia is still moaning with pleasure. Aaron hears all this and says that it looks like Lucia is using Naomi Masatsugu for her own purposes again. She asks if he treats her like that. She also reports that they have finished pulling out the weeds. Aaron touches her ears and says that, come to think of it, she hasn't really come to her senses either after what happened last week. Taking care of the orphan's health should be the responsibility of management. So, could he stroke her ears too? Shia shouts that it's so unfair. The mutter join in too. She throws herself at poor Aaron and says she'd rather be hugged than petted. Naomi Masatsugu sighs and says that they are so annoying. Naomi Masatsugu shouts to the two that they are perfectly healthy. Let them remember how the two of them practically ate all the first-class meat that Eustacia Ramel sent as an apology. Aaron says it was all to restore their strength. It's all because he fried it so beautifully. Shia says she couldn't help herself. The grated daikon and fish sauce just made it all so delicious. She starts drooling just thinking about it. Naomi Masatsugu says he's glad she liked it. So let Shia let him cook and serve her spoiled flesh next. She screams that she wouldn't be able to taste him if he did. Naomi Masatsugu says that, come to think of it, he knows it's a little late, but is an elf and a self-proclaimed goddess like the two of them even allowed to eat meat? She screams that she's a real goddess. Naomi Masatsugu asks if it doesn't look like a violation of the racial law or something like that. Aaron asks what he's talking about. She says that meat is a blessing of the mountains, and in this case, they would be cursed for not receiving it with gratitude. Shia says that she is a water spirit here, so there are no strict rules after all. Water should be free. Naomi Masatsugu says she can understand what Aaron is saying, but it doesn't make much sense. Shia says that whenever she invited another goddess to a barbecue, the gods of fire, thunder, and wind spirits would frown or look annoyed and refuse her invitation. She screams with sobs that it's as if they were laughing at her. Naomi Masatsugu tells her that she should be grateful to the other spirit gods for letting her go so easily. Naomi Masatsugu stands up and says that whatever it is, Lucia's treatment should be over by now. Lucia sits contentedly and says she liked it. Naomi Masatsugu says they need to prepare another new product today. They ask him what they will cook this time. Someone comes in and asks if Naomi Masatsugu is here. Naomi Masatsugu turns around disappointed and says that she came just in time. She hurriedly enters and asks them all to listen to her. Naomi Masatsugu says she's late and the meat she sent has already been eaten. The girls look away. Naomi Masatsugu points at Shia and says that he is more than willing to offer to cook this garbage for her. Eustacia Ramel screams that she doesn't give a damn because she's found someone to pick up the kids. They all look at her in shock. There is a sudden silence. Naomi Masatsugu hides and says that they grabbed his right arm. What are they doing at all? The girls are hiding from them, and Naomi Masatsugu says she must leave the orphanage immediately and meet with her foster parents. Lucia sobs and screams that she will never do this. She wants to continue washing the master's back forever. Aaron shouts in tears that no one is going to listen to him. She calls him a fool. Shia says that he has a bird's brain and asks who will take care of his bodily needs when she is gone. The girls attack him with their abilities. Naomi Masatsugu realizes that Lucia is tracking him with her sense of smell, and Aaron is controlling Shi's water with her wind magic. They work in perfect sync. Naomi Masatsugu says that now they have taken his left arm as well. Eustacia Ramel asks if they don't just spray him with water. Naomi Masatsugu screams, can't she see that it would be much better than being raised by him? They're screaming that they can't. Naomi Masatsugu asks Eustacia about the foster mother she found, if she is a good person. She replies that, of course, they are a local celebrity, and even do charity work. She has also met them before, and they are really good people. But if everyone is so against it, Eustacia Ramel is ready to return to the starting point and find them a foster parent. She says she didn't expect them to be so attached to him. She apologizes for bringing it up. Maybe she should have just left herself alone. Naomi Masatsugu asks her not to be stupid. He says that the fact that he's a director is a problem in itself. It is foolish to think that a child abandoned by his parents can look after orphans. Of course, it's not that he's worried about these troublemakers. You could even say that he doesn't give a damn about them. But that's exactly why. He sincerely believes that he should not raise anyone. They should receive proper education in a proper home. Unlike him, he thinks they fully deserve true love and a normal life. First of all, this is the job for which he is most unsuitable. He became the director only because he was ordered to. If someone took his place, he would gladly hand it over to them. He says there's no problem as long as they trust them. If they say you know, he'd say they're probably right. Eustacia Ramel asks if he is really satisfied with this. He replies that, of course, does she really think that he wants to continue playing family? He gets up and says that he doesn't want to, and that he's tired of it. He thinks the sun has set, and it's time for the guys to get out of the sandbox and go home. Eustacia Ramel asks how he will force them. Naomi Masatsugu says, just keep quiet and watch. He runs straight to them, who is surprised by such a straightforward approach. The girls shout that the master is rushing at them. Let them not stop and shoot in one volley. He is being attacked, and Naomi Masatsugu is avoiding attacks in every possible way. However, the water gets directly into his face in the eye area. The girls worry and ask if he is okay. Naomi Masatsugu thinks it hurts, but it's just water. If he just ignores the pain and attacks, then he wins. All that's left is to take them to their new foster family, even if he has to force them. Lucia approaches him and asks if he's injured anywhere. Aaron asks if they didn't say they'd leave. She wonders if Makun has suddenly turned into someone who loves pain by taking it face to face like this. She asks if he wants her to give him another one. After all, there was no need to catch them. He asks them to listen carefully. Starting today, the shelter is suspending its activities, and tomorrow they will go to their new foster family. Lucia asks if the master really hates her. He replies that it doesn't matter if it's sympathy or hatred. Why is she obsessed with such a shelter? He says it's for her own sake. She says she wants to stay right here. Aaron says she wants to stay here too. It's her house. Shiea says that if he has a pet, then he should take care of it then. Naomi Masatsugu says it doesn't matter what they say. He's closing the shelter anyway. Lucia touches his clothes with a trembling hand and begs with tears in her eyes not to leave her. Naomi Masatsugu immediately remembers how his mother abandoned him. He feels what his parents did to him. He watches as Lucia cries and the others look on excitedly. He abruptly agrees with them in a panic. The girls happily ask if this is really true. Naomi Masatsugu asks them not to misunderstand him. He won't change his mind. He says he'll just change the deal. If they still don't like the new house, they can come back in a week. He says he's going to make sure the shelter is open, so they have $1 million chance of coming back. He apologizes to Eustacia and asks her to inform her foster parents about this. She says that, of course, this is also part of her job, so she will try to respect everyone's wishes as much as possible. Naomi Masatsugu asks the girls what they think about it. Lucia wipes away her tears and replies that she understands, and that she will return home in a week. Aaron says she's been homeless for a year, so 1 week doesn't mean anything to her. Shia says she will do her best in this long-distance relationship. They happily leave him. He waves after them without emotion and thinks that they have finally left. There is complete silence. Naomi Masatsugu thinks that it's only 1 week. He sweeps his house and realizes that he knows what he said. He yawns and complains that there are fallen leaves everywhere, how difficult it is to take care of this place yourself. He remembers something, drags a pot of food and says that it was close. Everything was almost boiling. Cleaning and cooking are even worse without Lucia. He tells himself to stop and realizes that this is not all. Besides, it would be difficult to prepare a bath every day. To think that he would be bothered by Shi's absence here. He thinks about the weeds in the garden. That's the last thing he thinks about doing. At least the cost of fruit is much lower without these hungry girls. And most importantly, finally, peace and quiet. He remembers how the 3 girls sat with him at the table and enjoyed his food. Now he's sitting alone, eating his food and saying that maybe it's because he no longer needs to figure out how best to cook meals for children to help them grow up. He admits to himself that for some reason he is bored. A week later, Eustacia Ramel arrives and reports to him with her serious face that everyone wanted to continue with their foster parents. She says she doesn't think she needs to speak out loud, but she asks him to refrain from direct contact with the girls for the time being. Since this is a very sensitive period for them, she says to ask her to pass on a message if he needs to tell them something. After a long silence, Naomi Masatsugu says that it is clear to him and that he understood. Eustacia Ramel says that then let him forgive her, after which she turns away and leaves. Naomi Masatsugu sits down emotionlessly on the tile by the front door and then forces a smile, saying that he understood perfectly. This shelter is pretty terrible, from the shabby building to the meager food. The bathroom is really the only good thing here, but what's worse? Someone like him is the director. He takes off his fartuck and says that, of course, everything would have ended like this anyway. Children should grow up with someone who can give them true love and attention. He enters the building and closes the door behind him. Black clouds gather in the sky, as if reflecting the darkening of Naomi Masatsugu's heart.